Understand no one stands on us. Understand no one stands on us. Understand no one stands on us.
Mother, grandmother, lover, and lover. Made herself from the six and then others, such as the Pinks and the Hittites, Almoracas, X-Mix, why side, you're all brothers, caught up in some colors. I'm out of prison, meant to be pure light to help my mom's vision. Blinders on her, demons spying on her. Was talking, the climbing on her. Tattooed in the mind, don't waste time taking Bible from her. Still love her, and the reason I'm breathing, she brought me down to earth. Gutter and ditches from 4 seasons. Don't donate my inheritance to no Pope Jesus. Or underwriter or overseer. Not a business, we don't pay fees. Mama, grandmother, love her, and love her. Sweet deep from the spell, need to stand, mama. Understand, no one stands on her. What's up, mama? The reason I'm breathing, I'm walking on this turf. Life's meaning through seasons to show your greatest work. Call heathen and demon, but that was just from the church. Every region and legion honor your greatest work. Always pleasing and easing all my strain and hurt. The feeling just deepen, I mean the pain gets worse. It's the bleeding from beings you endured from birth. When I was sneezing and wheezing, coughing, you were my nurse. You the beacon of freedom, there's no need for me to search. When you speaking, it's even rare to hear you curse. The cheating and treason times I stole from your purse. 9 months of completion manifest on this earth. Mama say, mama saw, mama universe. Mama say, mama saw, mama you come first. Mama say, mama saw, mama makusa. Mama say, mama saw, mama abuka. Mama, grandma, love her, and love her. Sweet deep from the spell, need to stand, mama. Understand, no one stands on her. From the womb we came, Mother Earth is the tomb. Got the goddess with the frog works and human hair bloom. Throwing off her balance is the patriarch advantage. Worried about the wrong thing like fake nails and hair damage. Time to invest in self and your heirs. Show love to your sons. Your life is his king chair. Give daughters their magic, clairvoyant intuition to see the deadbeat escape by love in prisons while getting abused. These are the sperm back. You know you turn to salt. Why would you turn back to face the same mistreatments and disagreements? Falling for the belly top niggas wearing the sequins. Take your force back. Woman's lib is power illusion. Keep you in a state of confusion. Tap into remembrance. Never forget again. Energy right. Don't put spell effects on men. Mama, grandma, love her, and love her. Sweet deep from the spell, need to stand, mama. Understand, no one stands on her. Understand, no one stands on her. Gotta yield, you can't match her stamina. You an amateur, understand, pointing index finger. So hard that her mouth won't splinter. Harder than the coldest days in winter. She came in as a breeze, simulacrum twister. Instant pistol. If she an engine part, she be the piston broom. I'm a spark. I was thinking of doing a little something for you. She said anything done, she rather do it herself. The last years of struggle, she went through all herself. All the bills are stacking up way past her head. Receipts in the first spring spoke to her bed. She had no need for her, she put it all in her babies instead. Mama, I love you. Mama, grandma, love her, and love her. Sweet deep in the spell, need to stand, mama. Understand, no one stands on her. I was thinking you.
I am a Moorish American man.
Uplift humanity, that is my plan. This is Morocco, so this is my land. Open your hands, 5 on the left. Put up the peace sign, 2 on the right. Open your third eye, can you see the light? Not civil, little martus. Full life, not civil, little martus. Full life, more is a verb, more is a noun. Matter the more because black is an adjective. With the black status, think you over Vatican. Christian back codes, over the Vatican. Listen, my people, no time for shenanigans. If it's an island, I'ma call you Gilligan. Trace myself back, I'm Moroccan, I'm arrogant. Moorish Americans know what the spirit is. The more that you study, the clearer it gets. Did it myself, now I cheer again. This the prophet, we not friends again. Now I can hear again, see again. Welcome to me again. God being me again. Sons of Allah. Did it with intelligence. Study, study, study. Did it with some diligence. 7-11. They mad cause I'm militant. Christopher Columbus, the slave, and I'm serious. Slave is a bloodline. We did the labor. Leave me alone. I don't need any favors. Keep all that money. That shit is just paper. The United States is only on paper. The way you fight back, thoughts written on paper. You can take yourself cause no one can save you. Gotta study self. Change your behavior. The higher, the lower. Now here comes the danger. The lower is walking with one in the chamber. Higher is trying to control all the anger. My ego is saying, fuck all of you haters. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for war. 2 seconds on the clock. 1 shot and they're ready to score. Stop killing over colors. What's that for? Not nigga black colors. We are Moors. I am a Moorish American man. Uplift humanity. That is my plan. This is Morocco, so this is my land. Open your hands. 5 on the left. Put up the peace sign. 2 on the right. Open your third eye. Can you see the light? Not civil little martus. Full life. Not civil little martus. Full life.
Son of a mother, dead shit. None of the mothers can fierce dick. Pop smoking, but not broken. Right spoken, screaming, be a little. When you see them all, we ain't them. Stay strong, so weak with no end. Rules flow. Track up the track, what the hell you know. We all moles, not baby clones. The great and the great they roll. Nah, and the things they yo. I'm standing fade with y'all, we ain't them. When the real and the real and real. Got news from CNN on MHS. Taj on VHS. Canaanland modes with the latest. And to Muhammad, overdue Ali. The greatest. If you talk color, not hearing ya. Blood suckers, homo, them malaria. No need to put there's lots of fear in ya. Just throw you a book and you're scared enough. Bye little sheep on the shearing ya. Next day forget where you're naked from. That's not a heart, that's the shape of a lady's bum. Or 2 separated slice open atria. I am a Moorish American man. Uplift humanity, that is my plan. This is Morocco, so this is my land. Open your hands, 5 on the left. Put up the peace sign, 2 on the right. Open your third eye, can you see the light? Not civil little martus. Full life, not civil little martus. Full life. I am a Moorish American man. Uplift humanity, that is my plan. This is Morocco, so this is my land. Open your hands, 5 on the left. Put up the peace sign, 2 on the right. Open your third eye, can you see the light? Not civil little martus. Full life, not civil little martus. Full life. Corporate to run at the Cali. Clean paper, rice breaker. Things I get open, get carried. Take it home to your family. This Lone Star, not Texas. It's Moorish, not Magnet. Stay touring, not yesterday. This time rock, not United States. On the rock, not rockin' me. On the block, from the top heavy. Push more with black, nothing happening. Who's wearing masks, getting robbed, not man. Real life monopoly.
Islam, Moors, peace and love to all the Moors worldwide, anywhere you're at. Once you know the truth about your nationality and your birthrights, honors to you. So you can throw all the links out. Let all the Indians know today's their day. If they got something they want to put on the record, bring it. If you got something that you want to put on the record, bring it. So before we go in, we just want to also deal with our live we were supposed to do yesterday, because we were supposed to be with Top Cats, the legendary Top Cats. Came on the platform, said we're taking long, so decided to go live on his own. Right? Deciding to go live on his own with his little nigger indigenous crew over there. But there were some things that they presented. I just want to play some of their stuff and debunk these so-called Aboriginals, indigenous chiefs that they have out here talking crazy. And again, you know, we're Moors, so we don't deal with racism and all that stuff. We don't discriminate. Doesn't matter who you are. Don't talk BS in the chat. Push the link. You don't have to talk BS in the chat. We don't put people in timeout like these Indians do on their platforms and stuff like that. So just push the link if you got something, and we'll bring you on. If you talk crazy, don't get mad if the Moors scimitar you to death. Don't get mad. Just know this is our platform. So you might be able to play your little BS on your platforms, but not here. So let's just hear some of this.
You know what I'm saying? Doing all this, boy, y'all back there selling $100 pay-per-view, $500 Aboriginal Italian shoes and shit, nigga. You know what I'm talking about? Running around here, got these people talking about the Aboriginal, which is a European word. So I guess if you black and you're Aboriginal, you're a black European. You're a black European if you're Aboriginal. Aboriginal is a European word. It's a European word. We asked A1 right here on the channel. A1 said, yes, it is a European word. It is a European word. That's a fact. And I asked that nigga, y'all, I said, so why you don't use the word for Aboriginal in the Aboriginal language? Nope, they insist on using European because he's a Moor and the Moors are black Europeans. They did tell it.
Oh yeah, Jay White. Jay Black. Oh, Jayhawk, sorry. Jayhawk. Jayhawk, are you walking or flying right now? If you're not flying, you're not no damn Jay and you're not no Hawk. Stop the BS. Push the link. Don't talk crap in the chat. We're too stupid to talk to. Just push the link. It's not rocket science. You know, you Indians are a little bit slow. You know you're slow because you still don't get it. But push the link. You don't have to talk crazy in the chat. Now, people talking about Aboriginal is a European word, right? That's what you said, right? All right, let's just check some stuff here. I'm pretty sure these people are claiming that, you know, oh, they're not saying Aboriginal because that's a European word. Well, look at this. What I found interesting is that the articles I read on the topic overlooked an obvious aspect that should have risen as part of the discussion, namely that chief is a European title. As explained in the definition above, the term applies to American Indians. It is not an indigenous word. It's not an indigenous word. But people are going to tell you that they're big chief and all that stuff. You got to look out for them because they're the big chief. The big chief doesn't know that chief is a European word, and he's talking BS about A1, who we know. A1, what's that? That's barbecue sauce. Steak sauce is called A1. Who he's talking about is Ahanu L, who's a Moor. All these people want to play little games, have him on their platform so they can get 50,000 views on their videos or whatever like that, but they don't want to acknowledge that he has L. But they hate Moors, but they're going to let this Moor on their platform to teach them about Morocco is over here and American history and all that, but they're not even checking what he has on the record. Ahanu L changed his stuff from Autochthonous 1, so we could look at Autochthonous 1 as most deaf, and then Ahanu L as Yassine Bey. And what are these people doing today? What are they doing? They're still calling him most deaf, aren't they? They're still calling Malik El Shabazz Malcolm X, aren't they? They would never call Muhammad Ali Cassius Clay though, but they don't know who the Moors are? Please. All these European title people, because remember, when you look up Moor, they're going to tell you it comes from Latin. And Latin's Moorish. So don't let them fool you about some Greek and Moor means black and all that stuff. That's a fiction. And I know Jayhawk is going to go tell everybody else. So hopefully they get back here and somebody's going to push the button instead of talking crazy. So Jay White, like we told Jayhawk, what's all this Jay stuff going on? You guys Blue Jay? You guys part of the Blue Jay family or something? Red Jays? What is this? How come the two more haters in here are named Jay? Is that a coincidence? No, we don't believe in coincidences. These people are trolls. We already know that they're trolls, and they never push the button. Right? They never push the link. They just talk BS in the chat. Namely, that chief is a European title. So anybody claiming that they're Aboriginal and Indigenous, calling themselves chief, anyone whatsoever, I don't care how they look. If they're saying they're a chief, that's a European title. They're lying to you. They're not chief of anything. Right? They're not chief of anything. And there you go. Still talking BS in the chat. I called you before, loser. No, you didn't call Jack. Get in, push the button. But you trolls won't push the button. We already know how you people do. We already know how you do. No, we're not worried or concerned with any of you people. We know what's going on. Indigenous Aboriginal people, they don't know what's going on. Why don't they know what's going on? Because they don't study. Why don't they study? Because they have an agenda to keep you dumb, to keep you blind, to keep you deaf, to keep you incompetent. That's their plan. Keep you incompetent. Right? That's their plan. They're not interested in you being free. They're interested in playing back and forth games. They're interested in playing back and forth games. And don't even want to put it on the record what they're claiming. They just want to be trolling. Right. Islam Brother Kasir, you know, if you got something, just push the link and beat these people in the head. Because they're pretending like they don't know what's up. Right? American Indians and the American imaginary cultural representation. Contemporary political sovereignty in the space now called the United States of America is the result of changing relationships among colony, tribe, and nation as cultural concepts and as political entities. A history that underscores the historical contingent and ideologically potent definitions of political units in the North American context. The contrast between Native American tribalism and American nationhood that is so central to current American nationalism and to U.S. Indian policy emerged only gradually and has repeatedly been subject to revision and challenge. Anything that these colonials came here with is a fiction. And we already know Americans are the copper-colored natives who were here before Europeans came here. So American nationhood has nothing to do with some Europeans. American nationalism has nothing to do with some Europeans. So how would there be Native American tribalism when the Native Americans are really American nationals? How you guys get to tribes? Oh, probably because your chiefs sold you out. More than likely, the chiefs sold them out. The same chiefs, that is a European word that nobody wants to bring up. All they want to keep talking BS about is Moors. They'll never say anything to this colonists. They'll never say anything to these $5 Indian chiefs, but they want to debate Moors about something. And stay wanting to debate Moors about something as if they have a claim. Their claim is a fiction, no different than the black guy's claim is a fiction. The African we came on air slave ship guys is a fiction. The Hebrews, the Kemetics, the Rastafarians, the nation of gods and earths, whatever they call themselves and not have a nationality, all of them are a fiction. And we tell people all the time, this is not some stuff we have to do. But because of all the color and stuff that's out there, we have to add some contrast to the stuff that's out there. Because even Moors are out there talking crazy to people, confusing them, selling packages and whatever. So we took it as a duty to walk the fine line. We put out specific information. We're not going into no high stuff that you're not going to understand. Because you're supposed to be studying to get that high stuff. And no master teacher teaching you everything you need to know in a 4-hour lecture. It doesn't work like that. You're going to go study after you take notes from a 4-hour lecture to know what's what. That's the only way you're going to figure this thing out. If you don't intend on study, then you don't intend on being free. You don't intend on knowing who you truly are. You just want to be a parrot chasing around videos, chasing likes, chasing subscribers, chasing views, because 5,000 million views means that they're telling the truth. No, it doesn't. That's a fiction. That's a lie. And it's a blatant lie, because majority of these people are buying views and buying subscribers. So 3/4 of their subscribers are bought. They're playing you. But you don't want to do that. Nah, they wouldn't do that. They're our brothers and sisters. All right. Keep playing. Is that more? You still bellying over there?
Nah, I just finished, man. I'm I'm just skimming through Time Walker right now, trying to find a good spot to start reading. That's about it.
Okay. All right.
Listening.
You found it?
Yeah, no, I have it here. I'm just skimming through some parts.
All right. You have any parts you want to put out right now, or you're good right now?
Well, I mean, this is kind of what we talked about last night with the dude Salam, telling him to read it. But I'm skimming through to find what would be relevant for tonight's discussion, because it goes in and out of of the Americas. So I'm on page 74 right now and just going through. So I mean, do your thing, and
all right.
Yeah, I'll come in a little bit.
I tell you all this stuff. They're everything. They're everything except Moors. Right? We know that they're gonna tell you that they're Indian. How are we not telling you about the misleading misnomer Indian? Why don't they go here? Why do they keep pulling up stuff that has nothing to do with anything? Just pulling up stuff to try to make some point or prove some position that's not based in reality. It's based in fiction. Like we said, chief is a fiction. So anybody who looks like Asiatic, black, or whatever like that, calling themselves chief, they're a liar, because chief's a European word. Misleading misnomers. Is Indian an accurate term? Misnomers the bane of the intellectual world. Popularly used words and terms that are erroneously used to describe things, for example, tinfoil and jellyfish. Tinfoil is actually made out of aluminum for the most part, and jellyfish are not technically fish at all. Stuff like that. When Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492 and discovered America, as many of you might have already known, he was not actually looking for a new world, which would turn out to be the new world, but rather for a way to reach the East Indies by traveling to them, no, da, da, da. For example, today we have a baseball team called Cleveland Indians, who they're about to change their name because Indians are fraud. So named for a Native American player, and incidentally, the team is sometimes referred to as the tribe and the Wahoos. In addition, though, perhaps having fallen out of use in recent years, is the term Indian giver, which is used to describe someone who gives something, then expects it back. Both of these examples and many others stem from that particularly stubborn misnomer. Now, to say whether or not there would be questionable names of sports teams, racist words, terms used against Native Americans in the first place if the Indian misnomer never existed in a different matter entirely. But it seems all the more insulting when the misnomer itself is rooted in racism. It's just a matter of ignorance and lack of education. Same thing that we're dealing with our people. They're ignorant and they lack education. Why? Because they don't study. They assume everything that they know. They assume. They don't know, they assume. When Moors talk about we're studying, we're not studying some rolls with some names on it trying to find genealogy of our ancestors. That's not studying. That's not research. That's a fiction. If you're studying, that has to do with world history. Now, we put it on the record many a times that the people who claim that they're the Aboriginal and Indigenous people here and they're whatever they call themselves except Moors, none of them could tell you that they went to some other part of the world. All they know is over here. How could they be some founders of something when all they know is over here? There's no way that they could only know over here and talk about they civilized somebody and they brought something to the world. No, you didn't. Stop lying. Because when we go again to check the record of all the colonists who came over here, none of them came over here and said they saw things relative to teepees and cowhide and people on horses and all that stuff. There was none of that. There was paved streets here. Everything that was over there where the Moors were ruling was also over here. There were mosques here. Why is there a mosque? Why is there a domed building here? Why? And how come Phil Pasquini, who we interviewed, said he never seen anything here as far as buildings that Indians built? Just go watch the interview. Phil Pasquini, Canaanland Moors. Go watch the interview. Great brother. Didn't debate anything, didn't hold back anything, told it like it was. The Americas, oh yeah, this is Moorish for sure. This is Islamic for sure. All that Indian, Native American misnomer stuff is a fiction. It's guaranteed to be a fiction. Guaranteed to be a fiction. right? And again, going back, like somebody said in the chat, these individuals who are claiming Aboriginal and Indigenous and Native American and all these things without a nationality, they're not talking for themselves. If they were talking for themselves, just like the Moors who are in the temple and then they can't do anything unless Grand Sheik says they can do something. They can't sell a Quran because their Grand Sheik has to approve them selling the Quran and all that. They are lying to people who want Qurans and telling them they can't give them any because we don't have a printing press to print this up and whatever. They're not going to do it on their own. They're going to keep playing you. And again, people who are out there that don't know about this information, and if all you heard about was Indians, and if all you heard about was Native Americans, and if all you heard was American Indians and autochthonous and whatever, and you never heard about Moors, somebody's playing you. And they're knowingly, willingly playing you. It's not up for debate or up for discussion. We know they are playing you. It's a fact that they're playing you. First of all, because they're just like the black guys using misnomers all the time. Just like the black guys using misnomers all the time. However, despite all of that, there are a number of Native Americans out there who don't mind being called Indians, while at the same time, there are those who would argue that Native American itself is incorrect. For example, Pete Giove Forwinds had this to say on the matter of the various labels on Native Americans over the course of time. I take the position that American Indian is preferable to me for two reasons. First, in general, I'm not particularly supportive of the concept of political correctness, though I do apply it as necessary. Okay, so you're not supportive of political correctness, but it's necessary. Incompetent statement. In 2016, I can't very well walk through life being a dickhead. Second, as it applies to the indigenous population of this country, the term Native American was coined by Congress. Despite being a long-time government employee, I believe there are some areas Congress has no business. So this is not only a so-called Pete Forwinds Native American guy who doesn't mind being called Native American. This is also somebody from Congress. This is also somebody from Congress. And if somebody from Congress is going to talk crazy and let you know that it's a fiction, then how are you not riding with it? But then you're going to be using these same people's roles and all that stuff to prove that you're somebody. Right? Jay White, you push the button.
Yo, what's up? Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, I called your show before. I might prefer you to call you.
You're on here, so what's up?
So, like I said, the last time I called, Native Americans, they don't acknowledge your existence here.
Who
So,
doesn't acknowledge? Who?
Native Americans, the people you call Indians, they never acknowledge your existence. So, my question is,
let me ask you this question.
Let me ask a question. No, let me ask a question.
Go ahead.
So, are you saying you fake Moors were here before the Indians, or you coexisted with them?
What we're saying is that the people who are Aboriginal and Indigenous here are Moors. There's no coexisting with Indians. There's no such thing as Indian.
So Indians are Moors.
Indians are Moors. If Indians are Moors in Hindustan, then Indians in America are Moors too.
But the
Because
Indians here don't claim to be Moors, but you keep saying that they are Moors, even though they never acknowledge that or acknowledge you.
just like the same way that blacks don't claim to be Moors and they think that they're black. It's the exact same thing. The only difference is that one of them is saying that they're black and then the other one saying that they're Indian. Both of them are wrong because both of those are misnomers. We just read that Indian's a misnomer. So if they're calling themselves Indian, they're lying to themselves. They're lying to their children. They're lying about their ancestors.
So they don't know their history or lineage or anything. They don't know none of it. They don't know where they came from. They don't know the history, and you know it for them.
No, not that I know something for them. I know that this is not India, so they can't be Indians. It's real simple. This is not some stuff you need some.
They're native Indians to this land. They're native Indians to this land here. They're native Indians to this land.
There's no. You keep saying Indian. They're just
they call themselves Indians. You keep telling them they're somebody that they're not. They don't acknowledge being a Moor.
Just like the brother was saying yesterday, stop calling me Ethiopian. I'm not Ethiopian. I'm Abyssinian. And the individual never called him Abyssinian. Kept talking about Ethiopians. That's a fiction. The same way that the people who say we're black and they got black entertainment television, they got black this, they got black that, and they think that they're credible. They're not credible. That's a fiction. Period. So there's nothing to debate.
You're the most credible person, and nobody believes you except your small band of foolish Moors.
It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me. What's your nationality?
Go back to this.
What's your nationality?
The Indians of this land.
What's your nationality? What's your nationality?
I'm American.
You're American. No, I said what's your nationality, not what's your geographical.
You always try to go to that, and you want to get caught up on people's nationalities, blah blah blah. My point is,
what do you mean? National. If I went to somebody who's from Taiwan, what's your nationality? They're not going to say I'm Asian. They're not going to say that. If I talk to somebody from the continent, what's your nationality? They're not going to say I'm African. So why is it that these weirdos?
I was born in America, so my nationality is American.
So your nationality is American.
Yeah, but I know you're gonna try to play some word games. Yes, I'm American.
Okay, what tribe are you then? If you're American, then what tribe are you then?
I'm not from a tribe.
You're not from.
Neither are you.
So okay, so we're not from a tribe.
Yeah, you're definitely not.
Your nationality.
You're from Jamaica.
Your nationality
is a West African slave. Your people were never in America before the Indians at all.
What do you mean? You got some.
You're not from this land, and that's my whole point.
No, prove that.
No. Hold on. I didn't get to finish my first point.
Okay. Go ahead.
So the natives of this land, they call themselves Native Americans. That's what they want to be called. They want to say they're Native Americans. Okay, and you are constantly saying no. You're wrong. I know more about your history and your race than you do, and this is who you are. And they keep saying, no, we're not. But you keep pushing the agenda that they're Moors. They never say they're Moors. So don't you find it odd that they never say they're Moors, but you keep wanting to say that they are?
Why would somebody no different than the blacks? The blacks say that they're not Moors. We know that they're Moors. We know that black are Moor is what these people are, and they took a Moor off and called these people black. Just like the people who are in India are not Indian, because Indian is a misnomer. They're Hindustani, and Hindustanis are Moors. They have a Mauryan dynasty of Hindustan. Pakistan.
Yeah, but they never. But this day and age, do they claim to be Moors? Do they come out and say, "Hey, I'm a Moor"?
Sri Lankans claim to be Moors. Indians claim to be Moors.
No, they don't. Show me one.
Moors. What do you mean?
No, you don't. No American Indian claims to be a Moor. None.
We're not talking about American Indians. We're talking about Indians from India. This is not India. So
I told you before.
I'm Cherokee.
Moors are Arabs and Berber from North Africa. I told you that.
I'm Cherokee.
Moors, or you're not a Moor. Cherokee.
Oh, you can go look up my name. I'm on the Cherokee Census Roll. You can look me up right now. Look me up right now. You can go look me up right now.
Indian just not to pay taxes. You 1/8 Indian, huh? You found 1/8 of yourself to be Indian.
I'm not lying. I'm documented.
What
I'm
Indian
in
customs
history.
do you practice? What Indian custom do you practice?
There's no such thing as an Indian custom. That's
There
what.
is no
That's why I
Indian
must say.
custom.
That's why I say I'm a Moor.
No Indian customs
That's why I say I'm a
or
Moor.
traditions. They don't have any customs or
No,
traditions.
no, no. That's Los Indios. It's Los Indios.
No,
It's
no.
Los Indios. You don't even. That's what the word Indian comes from. Comes from Los Indios,
And
the
I'm pretty
godless
sure you black
heathens.
as hell, right?
No.
I bet you don't resemble a Native
Second.
American at all. Y'all just
Go ahead,
want to be
brother.
American Indian so y'all can avoid paying taxes. That's all. Big scheme.
What
You're just scammers.
Go ahead, brother Sheldon.
can I chime in for a quick
this
sec?
guy
Can I
again.
just ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, this guy.
This guy?
What did you do, Sheldon?
What did I
This
do? I
guy.
just
This
got.
guy here.
You took this guy's girl? Sheldon, you took this guy's girl or
And
something?
by the way, Artie kicked y'all asses last week. Y'all kicked him off the show. Yeah, I heard you was on there.
I wasn't even on last week, so that's
you was there. Yes, you were.
I wasn't there.
The show with Artie.
On which show?
Man, wait a
When
minute.
Artie came on and he
Hold
proved
on,
y'all
wait a
wrong
minute,
and made
wait a
y'all look
minute.
stupid,
Yeah, no,
y'all
I was
kicked them
yeah, I
off the
was
show.
with
Stop
Artie.
kicking
Hold
people
on.
off the show when y'all look stupid.
Jay White Shitty Game.
How did Artie
Everything y'all
make us
said was
look
wrong.
stupid?
Jay White
When
Shitty
at
Game.
the end,
Before we get carried away, what do you
Okay.
identify yourself as?
okay,
Huh?
well,
Before we get carried
American.
away, what you identify?
I'm just American.
well,
I'm American. Point blank.
Okay. Go back to the 1828
I just wanted
definition of American. And what do you got?
Oh boy, he's reaching. He's going 100 years
Not
back.
reaching. What do
Reaching.
you
I'm talking
got?
about current stuff. I'm American now.
Current. Okay.
Yeah,
Would
I'm
the
American.
definition still be current? If they didn't erase it or hide it, it's still there. You can go find it today.
They
You
who?
can get a dictionary from today and it's there.
Who are they and who erased it and hid it?
You say you're American, right?
Right.
So if you say 1828 definition of American, what makes what derives where American today derives from, what would the definition be of who you are?
I'm not sure where you're going. You're trying to say that the definition 1829 meant less than what it is now?
No, do you
Then
know
we
the
weren't
definition of
Americans?
American from 1828?
But to me, the definition of American today
Not
is
to
someone
you.
that lives in America. That makes you American.
No. See, not to you, not by your opinion, by actual law, what it actually says. See, because
Somehow,
we deal with a lot of
well,
opinions.
all right, I don't know the law, so quote me the outdated law. Pretty sure it's outdated.
What's the definition of American 1828 if you're American?
Can you tell me? Because I don't know.
Basically, you're saying you're Aboriginal to America and a copper-colored person before the Europeans came here. And then today,
that's the 1829 definition. What's the current definition of American?
1828, not 1829.
1828. What's the current definition of American right now?
So what you're okay? Let's deal with this. You're saying that you're American, but you don't want to take on. Are you talking or you let me talk? Okay, you're saying you're an American, but you don't want to deal with the Aboriginal and copper-colored identity of yourself, right?
I'm a descendant of slaves. They came from
Okay, that's fine. That's okay. We keep it there. It's something called the Constitution of the Iroquois Indians. Have you ever heard of it?
The Constitution of Iroquois. Enlighten me.
Okay, in the Constitution of the Iroquois Indians, in the clan and consanguinity section, it deals with people who do exactly what you're doing. And it says, part 29, if any of the Rone women, heirs of a titleship, shall willfully withhold a lordship or other title or refuse to bestow it, now this is where you come in, or if such heirs abandon, forsake, or despise their heritage, then such women shall be deemed buried and their family extinct. Stop there. Have you ever seen the 101 cover of what Noble Drew Ali wrote for us, the 101 questions for Moorish Americans? Have you ever seen the cover of it?
No, I don't believe in Noble Drew Ali. You know, he was a con
No,
man.
you don't got to believe in him. He actually existed. It's not about belief. I don't.
Yeah,
believe
he
in
did actually exist, and he was a con man back in his day. He was arrested for fraud.
Okay, so have you seen the alleged con man?
Want to address that?
Called the 101 questions for the Moorish Americans. The alleged con man. Have you seen the book?
No, I'm not reading that.
No, I didn't say have you read it. So you have a problem with
He has a problem.
This is what we're
Big problem.
So you can't speak to us because you have a problem with comprehension. When we go to the people who know law, right, and we speak this law to them, there is no confusion. They
You
give
speak
us
to your own
favorable
people that
replies.
agree with your law.
No, it's not about
You
law.
speak to your own people that agree with your law. Your laws and your ideals don't exist in this world today.
Okay. You say you're American, right? Back to that. If you're American, your law says about clans and consanguinity in 49, part 49, that you have just willfully abandoned, forsake, and despise your heritage. So you buried your mother and left your family extinct. I asked you, did you see the 101? Because what Noble Drew Ali was doing was to rise your mother up out of the grave and restore you back to the nationality which you withheld yourself from. You know your tribe, but you don't know your nationality. Well, not you. You're American who don't know who you're American.
How did you trace your lineage to become a Cherokee? How far back did you got to go to find 1/8 of a Cherokee in your family?
It's not about 1/8 Cherokee. I could go all the way back to, well, for this conversation with you, I don't need to go back to the 1600s. I could stay in the 1800s with you and deal with my grandfather's great grandfather's James Hooks.
So your whole family is Cherokee Indians, every one of them.
It's not about Cherokee Indian. That's
yes or no. Yes or no. Yes or no. Are they all Cherokee Indians?
No. That's a classification.
How many of them are
asking me if I'm Walmart?
What percentage of the people in your family are Cherokee Indians?
Everybody in my family are Moors.
I didn't ask you.
If
that.
you want to say, see, when you don't know what a Cherokee is.
My questions are clear and concise.
Are my family grave watchers? No. Are my family?
What percentage of your family is Cherokee Indians?
No. What is wrong? Like, are you gonna let me talk? Do you know what a Cherokee
You didn't answer my question. Okay, answer that question.
I'm trying to answer your question, but you don't even know what you're asking for me to quantify the answer for you. See, do you know what a Cherokee is?
You're gonna talk. You're gonna beat around the bush.
Okay, what is the
That's
Cherokee?
That's what y'all do. Y'all play word games and y'all beat around the bush.
No. This is.
It's all about word games, word semantics. What percentage of your family is Cherokee Indian?
What is a Cherokee?
It's a math question.
What is a Cherokee? So I can know.
He's not going to answer the question. Okay.
No, I'm going to answer.
You're not going to answer. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, answer the question, sir.
What is a Cherokee? So I can
answer the question. You know, because you claim to be one. You claim to
according
be Cherokee Indian. So explain to me how much percentage of your family is a Cherokee Indian.
My family aren't wind talkers or pipe carriers, but my family are planters and gatherers. So are you asking me what percentage of my family farmed?
Yes, I want a number.
Can I ask a question?
100% of my family were farmers. Up until 1885, when they subjugated them through the what do you call that? They were doing what was that? The Europeans were basically changing all the laws around because they after we fought the wars. They were changing everything from the Reconstruction era. It was in the Reconstruction era around 1885 is where my grandfather passed. So instead of giving the land back to the heirs, they took it and put it in probate. I mean, but okay. So the question, and then when you look at the documents,
your grandfather passed in 1885.
Yeah. So in the record,
your grandmother. So you must be very old then.
Who?
You.
What do you mean? My great-grandfather passed in 1885?
No, you said your grandfather.
Oh my gosh! What are you getting at, my guy?
That's insane, bro. Because you're not trying to get any understanding. You're just trying to.
You don't want to understand. You're just up here to make that dumb shit.
Yeah, because I can expound.
He didn't answer my question about being a Cherokee. You must like his grandfather. He stole all this knowledge to him.
No, you don't want to get
what percentage of his family was Cherokee Indian.
I said 100, and I said 100%.
100%. So you're 100% Cherokee Indian.
Based on our farming. What are you doing?
So you're 100% Cherokee Indian.
Our farming ability that ties us into the Cherokee on that level. We weren't pipe carriers or wind.
Are you 100% Cherokee Indian?
You don't know what you're asking, but yes.
He just told you 100%. What more you want?
So
full blood, bro.
Do you look like a Native American, or do you look like
what
a
is
black
your
man?
Okay? Let me not attack you. What does a Native American or American Indian so-called look to you? In your regard,
do you look like Cujo? Because he's
clearly this dude's lost. I don't know why y'all even talking to this dude.
So according
to like Cujo,
he don't even know his own nationality.
That's a black man.
So according to you, Cujo is Native American.
No, he's not. Cujo is a nigga. And if you look like Cujo, you're a nigga, and you're not Native American.
So wait, Come on now.
And like I said before, Native Americans don't claim y'all, and they don't fuck with y'all, and they don't like y'all.
What's the nationality of a nigga though?
Let it on out.
What's the nationality of a nigga?
He coming out right now. It's coming out. It's coming out.
Oh, he's getting mad. He's getting mad.
It's coming out. Good job.
Because they native.
He's muted. Go ahead, boy.
Okay. So okay.
No, I got a question for Jay.
Wait, we just got to think about something. He just crucified himself based on what our people believe.
Clearly, his concept.
He crucified himself based on our Constitution.
Don't mute me.
Don't mute him. Don't mute him.
Oh, don't just
for a second. I got it. Give me 1 minute and be right back.
But it's true though. It's true. It is true.
This is our platform.
It is true. It is our platform.
What are you talking about?
So he got to answer something back because I just gave him a couple references and I answered his question about who my family was. I cited where I didn't even Georgia. I didn't. So I gave him a territory where they were from. So he has to say something now that comes back, like and refutes it or something or something. Because I just put the claim forth and I'm standing on it. I got all this documentation. What is he saying?
Well, we'll let him. Okay, so wait. So then let him answer the question.
He muted himself this time. That has nothing to do with me, so don't let him try to tell you I muted him or nothing like that.
His whole mindset is confused.
Even if you did mute him, what was he saying that was useful?
Because you don't know anything about nationality and national country.
But I have a few questions. No. Everybody, but I got to think is I have a few questions. There's a couple of questions that I want to ask you.
Just crucified it.
There's a few questions that I want to ask you. So Jay, can you unmute yourself? There's a couple of questions I just want to ask you. Jay, you're muted.
All right, I'm back.
Hey.
All right. So,
sorry,
the first question is,
if you're not on, just mute your line so we could have a clear view.
Yeah. Now, you said that Artie, whatever, but that's a whole other story, whatever. Because now I got like the stuff that I was telling Artie about, I have it here with me.
All right, so you had a question. Go ahead.
But the question that I said, yeah, so, because you said you're American, but like what, are you Choctaw, are you Chickasaw, are you Sioux,
I'm not
or
Native
like
American. What? I told you that. No, I'm not Native
You're not
American.
Native American?
Like you're not Native American.
Conversation over.
My family.
So you're, hold on, stop. Don't interrupt him. So, but you just said you're American.
America, right? Okay.
The continent is
we
America.
live in the United States,
Where are you
right? I was born here in the United States. Therefore,
okay.
I'm an American. That's how it goes.
You European?
But then, okay, but then if somebody's born in Canada,
Canadian,
are they also American?
Canada's in America, though.
But
Canada's in America.
This is
exactly,
the same word
and you just said you're just. No. But hold on a second. This is
no
the
one's
whole
confused.
confusion.
If you live in America, you're American. If you were born in America, you're American. If you're born in Canada, you're Canadian.
Listen, hold on. Jay,
y'all really don't have any facts.
Just out of Jay, can I please finish my thought? Because I did not interrupt you when you were speaking. Okay. If Canada makes Canadians and Mexico makes Mexicans, how come people from the United States make Americans? That does not make sense. And the continent is America. So how come if the continent, there's North, Central, and South America, how come people from the United States claim the entire continent and everybody else just gets a piece? How is that logical?
Because of what part I claim? Does that make me less of an American because I claim a certain part? Does it make me less of an American?
Yeah, it does.
And by your logic, I should be a United States.
Because if you're gonna say,
right? Okay, then I'm a United States.
Exactly.
Because I'm not a Native American. I'm not a Native American just like you.
You got ID to show that? You got ID to show you're a United States?
Okay.
Because since you want to play this game, I agree.
No, we're not playing games.
I'm a United Statesian, but you're still not American Indian.
Okay, hold on. Okay, all right. So you're a United Statesian. All right. That's okay. Now, the second question is, you said that Cujo does not look like a Native American, right? So what you're saying is the entire continent. Now, if you look at Africa, there's so many different ethnic groups and stuff on that continent, but they're technically all Africans. So you're saying North, Central, and South America, everybody looks the exact same. That's what you're saying, right?
Look the same.
In all of South, so you've been all over South America then?
Panama,
where?
Colombia, Mexico, been a few places.
Panama, okay, but you understand it's a continent down there, right? That's like saying, that's like saying I've been to New York, Texas, and
you know how they feel about you
Florida.
blacks down there in them other countries? They don't like you either.
No. Wait, no.
I'm not sidetracking. I'm just
sidetracking.
You
No, hold on a second.
all these people are black, but all these people.
No. You're sidetracking because
you.
Jay, I asked you a question. I asked you the question, and the question was, you were saying that the entire continent, North, Central, and South America, everybody looks the same. And you said
people look the same.
And you said you've been to you've been to three places in South America. What you just said, and you're counting that for the entire continent. And I said that's like going to New York, Texas, and Florida. And based on those three places, everybody looks the same. That's like me going to Ghana, Egypt, and Morocco, and saying, based on those three places, 1 billion people look the same. That's what you're saying.
I know what Native Americans look like. I know what they look like. I know what they say they look like. I know. I have.
So you're
Native
saying.
American
So
friends.
you're saying.
This is what I told Cujo before.
So you're saying
Congo.
What you are saying is that an entire continent, North, Central, and South America, everybody looks the same.
No, they
that's
look
where
Spanish. They look Mexican. They look Hispanic, and there's white Hispanics and black Hispanics, and they don't like
what
blacks.
what does Hispanic Hispanic look like?
Hair, certain type of face.
What does an African look like?
They got certain facial features.
Americans, though.
Oh, so then that's what I'm saying.
Like you can look at a Chinese person, hey, that's what I'm saying,
and then you're trying to.
Everybody has certain
facial features.
Really? So you can tell? Okay, hold on.
You can't look at a Chinese person, hey, that person's Chinese.
Hold on, Jay. Okay, Jay. All right, Jay. Hold on. So you're telling me you can tell the difference between Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Taiwanese. You're telling me you can tell the difference, right?
How Japanese?
Oh, so then they look like. Oh, okay.
He's out here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
He was just exposing himself. He's just exposing himself, and then he's looking at me like I don't know what I'm talking about. He just said the entire continent looks the same. He pretty much basically said that everybody in North, Central, and South America all look the same. Because Cujo does not look like he's an American. He doesn't look Native American. So what he's saying, everybody looks the same. That's like saying everybody in Africa looks the same. Enough said. Enough said. He could say
it's
what
like burning.
Because his concept is clear. He doesn't have the correct concept.
Yep.
His concept.
He just exposed
and the difference between nationality and landmass are confused. He doesn't understand the concepts of nationality, what a nationality is, what landmass is, which is 3rd grade level, basic stuff. Basic stuff. So he clearly needs to sharpen up his mind.
Is it really that he doesn't understand it?
What it means to present yourself nationally? Because is clearly absent, and like Brother Sheldon said, he's exposing himself, and that's where the confusion lies. The confusion lies within. The confusion lies within himself.
That's what I'm saying, and then he's gonna say that Artie made me look bad, but this is the same.
Because I don't think he's trying to.
This is the same question that I was asking.
It's clearly he doesn't
he's
understand
American because he's from the
it,
United States.
and it appears that he's not trying to overstand it.
Right, he's being he's doing this on purpose. It's not like he doesn't get
Then
it.
again,
He gets everything he said. He like literally pauses and waits how to subjugate himself when he comes back with the answer. So it's just like to cause confusion and bring that reminds me of like the COINTELPRO stuff, like cause confusion on a platform where we could just really be breaking down myths right now and breaking down misunderstandings. Instead of dealing with him, all he does is these type of people say the same stuff.
But he said his family
anything.
Got to do their best to stand.
Aljamir, your stream's kind of choppy. You're in and out. Your stream's choppy, Aljamir.
Yeah, it's kind of choppy.
We can't even hear you properly. Katsir, you were saying something?
Yeah, I'm saying like when people come on like that and they're not trying to understand anything, it's like, what's the point? Because what we're trying to do is unify or build a form of unity where we could all come together and make something out of it. So if you're coming across just trying to bang on anything and not trying to hear, then it's like you're going against the whole purpose of why we're even doing this. And I say that because like I've been reading the treaty, and if you go to Article 16 in the treaty, it actually gives provision where people calling themselves, Indian or whatever, they have protection under the Sultan. So I'm trying to figure out like why is it such a fight?
Oh, let's find out. There he is again. Let's find out. You gonna listen now, or you gonna keep talking?
He don't have no.
Why you kicking off the show? Nationality. That's how you run the show.
The reason why, because this is our platform. We do what we want here. So
you invited me to get on the show.
Hold on, because you're gonna get kicked off again. You're talking crazy. What the more is explaining to you is you don't listen. You don't want to hear. You want to keep talking about your misnomers. You're gonna tell me that Chinese, Japanese, and Taiwanese and all these people are Chinese. That's incompetence, bro. You're talking shit. Chinese and Japanese are two different fucking people. Two different. They look different. Their hair is different. They're not the same. So for you to talk like they're the same and keep going with it as if they're the same, that's a fiction. Just like we were telling you in the beginning, people calling themselves Indian, people saying that I'm American and they're not identifying themselves by nationality, that's a fiction. And if you want to play fiction, you're going to do that on somebody else.
Indian is a fiction. They call them language Indians, but they're wrong and you're right.
What's that?
That's my whole point. These people don't believe what you say about them. They don't go along with what you say about them. That's why your show is American Indians calling. They don't agree with you.
Who? Which name the American Indian?
Jay.
None of them.
Which Native American?
None of them. I have a Native American friend. I have a Native American. He's 100% Native American. He knows his whole history. Let me talk.
Call him up.
Let me talk.
Call him up. Call up your Native American friend. I got mine.
I can't call him. I'll see if he wants to call in. But he's 100% Native American. Okay? He knows his history. He knows his history. He never in his life said, hey, I'm a Moor.
How does he look?
Black like these guys.
100%.
How does he look, Jay?
Jay.
How does
he know who he is? Because maybe somebody told him about his history.
Jay, how does your Native American friend look? That's the question.
He looks like a traditional Native American, unlike
No. How does he look? Describe him. How does he look? What color is his skin?
Brown skin, long black hair, got kind of a long nose, high cheekbones.
And you're saying that the long straight hair people that aren't dark skinned, that don't look like Olmecs, you're saying that those people are the natives here. Those are the first people.
No, he says he's a Native American. He never says that he's black. He never says that you people were here with them at all.
You people, okay. Wait
everything that y'all say, he disagrees with it, and I can't believe him because he's an actual Native American.
Should he get
What's his number? Let me go.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, bro. It's actually going to be a series of questions. Heads up. But first
No,
question.
no word game questions, okay?
No.
Just a straight up question.
I don't even know how to categorize. I'm just speaking to you, bro. So, what state do you live in?
Oh my God. I live in Virginia.
You're in Virginia. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
I was in the Midwest too. I'm in the South right now, but I got you. So you're in the state of Virginia, right? So that's one of those states that, for what the history they tell us, was one of them 13 colonies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the 13 colonies was set up because of colonists, or we're going to say Europe, right? Whenever they came to these lands and then they set up shop. And when they came here, they labeled the people that they saw here Native Americans, no different than Christopher Columbus, who did it in the 1400s too, right?
Sure.
So it's outsiders coming to a place and being like, oh, from my aspect, you look like you're from here because I just arrived here. Native American, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is also where we get them telling us about how America came to be known as America, and sometimes they throw it off on Amerigo Vespucci, but they're all saying it's people that weren't from here that came to here and found some shit, right? And this is what they're
Yeah, they
saying is
came here and they
native to
conquered the land.
Americas and
Yeah.
everything else. We there?
Yep.
Okay. So if there are Olmec heads that predate them discovering some stuff that was found here, and there's hieroglyphs in the Grand Canyons that's, really old, and we know all of these extra things about the Native Americans and the attributes of them here, who was here in the 1300s, and you know what I mean, like before they got here. Where's the disconnect with the Native American labeling?
Well, the people that came here to this land, they called them Indians and Native Americans. They had their own tribal names, but to this day, they agree with being called Native Americans or natives. They don't have a problem with that.
But even the term to be called as native, that's an English thing, right? So if they had their own native tongues, they wouldn't be like, hey, bro,
I
I'm
mean,
native.
they had their own name, but they adopted the English language and they adopted the word native. They call themselves today Native Americans, means the people that were originally here. That's all it means.
Bro,
But they were here first.
I get what you're saying. So as far as how Native Americans, because of how they've labeled them, because this is who they found first or whatever, you're saying that the Native Americans are like, the one teardrop from a litter commercial, and the long flowing hair and the bronze skin, right? But not you.
Yes.
Not most Moors.
Yes, they definitely don't look like Moors. Those are.
So
Native
did you know?
Americans.
Do you know of a person in history by the name of? Why am I blanking on his name? I should have never hit that blunt. What is his name? Help me out, Morris. He pretty much came to this.
Joe.
Oh no, what was the description, more?
The description of him, he came to these lands with a whole bunch of people from the Orient, yeah, and he's who intermixed with a lot of the Moors that were here to even get the more how we would think about traditional Asiatic phenotype in.
Esteban?
He's coming from Asia.
Esteban.
From
Conquering
Asia.
real
That's
big.
Yeah. Hold on. It's
Genghis Khan. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
From the
All right.
Shank.
I was guessing
Okay.
when you said big, I'm thinking Genghis. That's the great. All right.
That's
all
what's up. Genghis Khan. Islam. So we got there. So did you know that Genghis Khan came with tribes of Moors out this way, and that's what actually intermixed to even get that traditional in thought to the westernized, European in their mind as far as Native Americans? Did you know that that's who makes them a group of us, but not all?
Genghis Khan came over here from Asia with a group of Moors, and he mixed with who?
The Incas.
The Incas. And
Yes,
then the Incas became the Moors, and Incas made Indians. As you
the Incas was calling themselves the Amado before they met, the Genghis. And Genghis was calling themselves the Ilkhanate or Ilkhanate. You know what I mean? They were the Khans. So when the Amado met with the Khans, you get a Medu Khan. That's just the Mongol. And then when we saying this whole them coming over,
and what year was this?
Pre-colonial. We got to do our history on it.
Yeah, this
If
is
we
back.
put
colonial
it at the
times.
top of
This
our
is
Okay.
back.
screen, we gotta do our history on it.
Yeah.
In pre-colonial times.
Pre-colonial
So are you
times.
saying that Genghis Khan's Moors and Incas mixed together and produced Indians? As you saying?
I'm saying we witnessed all of that being here.
You could call them Indian if you want to, but it's they
That
won't.
was,
I
that
mean,
was,
if
you
you're
didn't
calling
really
them
answer my
Indian, it would be
question.
like
I didn't.
taking their
No, I just
looking at
want to
their
know
ancestry
that
from Hindustan, like
see,
Mauryan Empire.
Right, because Indian
I
is a false. You're right. That's
okay, but I
Hindustani.
just
This is
want to
false for
know
them too.
if Genghis Khan, so Genghis Khan's people and Incans made Moors. I mean, made Indians. Those are Native Americans.
Not
That's how
Bro,
native.
Native Americans came to be about.
bro, there's a book that you can look up called Secret of the Andes, like the mountains. Secret of the Andes. Huh? And it's talking
So
to
you know you don't really answer questions. You just kind of gloss over my question.
the answer is yes, and I'm giving you proof. And the proof is
False.
yes.
Here from
But I
that's false.
but I asked you a question, Jay, and you never answered the question.
The Moors and Incas totally wrong. Totally wrong. No.
All right, too many people are talking at the
You're
same
wrong,
time.
Sheldon. You're dead wrong on that. You're dead wrong on that.
What's that? How am I dead,
I didn't hear you.
dead wrong on that you didn't answer my question? I asked you what you're like before you got cut off and all. Like I asked you, you're saying that an entire continent looks the same,
I explained to you that people in South America
and you didn't answer
look a
that.
certain way. Mostly people now in North
Based on
America is a hodgepodge of people.
Based on 3 places that you've gone. But this is based on 3
Should I
places
go to
that
every
you've gone.
country?
That's like me saying I've been to Africa.
people
Yeah, but
online.
you can't base that on you being to 3 places, bro.
Bro,
There's
can't-
many countries. In America.
I've been to Egypt. Listen, I've been to Ghana and I've been to Egypt proper, and those 2 places don't look the same. Those 2 people don't look the same. So how are you gonna tell me that South Americans all look the same? That's what you're basically saying.
Look, like
If
Indians
you're saying that
were here before, everybody else have a similar look. They have a similar look. My friend's 100% Native American. He has a look. Okay, he does not look like you.
You know what that's like?
At all.
That's like. Okay, Jay. You know what that's like? You saying you have a Native American friend? That's like a European saying all black people look the same because I have one black friend.
That's exactly what you're doing.
That's what you're doing right now.
And you're not going to leave me to believe
That's
that
exactly
Native
what you're
Americans
doing.
look black because they don't.
European psychology.
They
Why
don't.
wouldn't okay, so
What you're saying is an entire continent, north, central, and south, all look the same based on 3 places that you've been to.
You just want to dwell on it.
Dude, you sound so ignorant.
That's how you want to dwell on. I'm telling you what Native Americans look like.
No, but that's what you're saying.
What I'm saying. Say they don't look that way.
That's what you're saying. And you're
How
talking
do
about
Native
all,
Americans
you're
look?
talking about all Native Americans
you tell me
based
how they
on
look.
one friend that you
tell me how
have.
they
Heard of
look.
Wu-Tang, bro?
Yeah. Tell me how they look.
I
They
can't
look like
tell you
Old
how
Dirty
they all look
Bastard.
because I can't tell you how they all look because I haven't been everywhere in the Americas.
You never seen an old
Just
photo
like I've
of an
been to a
old
couple of
Indian?
places in
You ever
Africa.
seen an old photo?
Bro, I have been to a couple of places in Africa.
Have you seen old photos of old
I'll let you speak. I've been to a couple of places. I've been to a couple of places in Africa, and I've seen Abyssinians and Eritreans and stuff, and they do not look the same. So I've actually, the people that I've come across, according to your 3 places that you've been to in South America, I've seen more African people out here where I'm at that look completely different. So I'm sorry, bro. You cannot tell me an entire continent looks the same.
Okay, I'll let you be right on it. But you know what?
That is
American
super
Indians don't look like you.
That is super
You can't
ignorant.
dispute that. American Indians do
That's
not look
super
like
ignorant, bro.
Can I interject?
They
something?
don't look
That's
like
super
you.
ignorant.
They don't look like
Especially
Cujo.
with,
They don't look like
with
me.
the Olmec stones.
Can I interject?
Okay.
Especially
All
with the
Mex
Olmec
aren't black
stones. Especially with the Olmec
Okay.
stones.
what are Olmecs doing? Orange?
Okay.
Olmecs are orange people.
All right.
Nah, he right. They weren't black. They was Moors. For real.
Can I
They
interject?
wasn't more
something?
either.
Yeah.
They
Who's
weren't
that one?
Moors.
It's Kasir.
Islam boy, go ahead.
Oh, Islam. I'm pretty sure you probably haven't heard of this, but
Good.
if we deal with the same caste system that happened in so-called Hindustan, since we want to deal with the Indian native type of confusion, when the Spanish under the conquistador rulership came over here, they brought something called the Lacastas, right? This is their Spanish racial classification game, and then the Europeans repeated it with their eugenics. So what this is doing is when a people who were caught up in being amalgamated would come to the New World, and they would find that the same people in the New World were the ones in the Old World that they were running from, like the Moors, the Nubians, the Egyptians, the dark-skinned people. When they got over here and seen that, they've realized that there's going to be no way for them to gain first rulership or a allodial title here unless they flip something and change the way the categories are going to be classified. So when you're saying, oh, today they look like that, that's part of what his plan was with the Lacastas and things like the eugenics in the caste system of British India. This is what these people do. Like they know that they're the so-called amalgamated lineage of us, right? That doesn't give them first claim to the mother with land because they don't go back to the mother. They go back to a father somewhere when that happened, like when that bloodline was changed. That's why Christianity goes by the patriarch. So this is when we're trying to correct, it's not to keep beating you up and everything you say is wrong and it sounds like we're playing word games. But to try to take you out of what the European has placed on you, it seems like that because he's placed you under word magic. Something like this. You're saying native, not to attack you, because this is what you were taught and we were taught. I was taught it when we go to a dictionary, just a regular, it'll say native, somebody from the land. But if you understand etymology and understand that native goes back to nativus, nativus is somebody who's a serf or slave-born individual. So in order for you to be serf or slave-born, you have to be from another nation to come over here and lose a war to our people. Because slavery isn't really, it's not, when they put all the violence on it, you don't understand the war powers, the way things happen when wars happen, especially when families fight. You don't want to destroy your family lineage. You want to kind of keep it, just sanguine. So the way you do that is by doing these things, implementing certain things where you protect the family line when it comes to wars. And there were a lot of wars here and in the old world. So we got to put those type of things into consideration when we're talking about what's going on in 2020, especially when we're looking at what the so-called Democrat is trying to do when it comes to bloodline of people based on, those shots. We'll just call them shots that they're trying to give people. I yield the floor.
I had a question earlier. This is my first statement. When I asked it, y'all so-called Moors, I asked did y'all coexist with the Native Americans? And maybe you may not agree with what I call them or what you call them, but let's just leave that. I'll leave like the word games out tomorrow. That just convolutes everything. So my question is, did y'all coexist with them?
Yes. And when I say yes, let me quantify my answer.
I got a second part to that.
It's like saying, did the Black Panthers coexist with Black people? Yes. But
y'all lived at the same time, y'all lived around each other, all that.
But were the Black
y'all traded with each other. Did things like that.
But wait, did the Black people of that day consider themselves
from the time
Black
off.
Panthers all the way? No. But would the Black Panthers consider themselves Black? Yes. Because we're talking about the look of a people and then a group of the people that look all alike going to do something and setting up like an organization or whatever to go at the European. This is where the European starts to Lacasta or classify people and give you misclassifications to make the other ones who didn't, wake up yet or do anything yet to put them fast asleep in the state mindset. So what I mean is so say I come up we're right now we live in my house, right? Everybody, all my brothers in the house. Some guys just break in here one day and for whatever reason we don't gun them down to do whatever. We don't protect the house, and then they start putting these rules on us in the house. Now, when it comes to what you're looking at today, it'll be like if they moved all these new people in the house that look like them and are teaching us that look, that's your ancient ancestors. That's what your ancient ancestors look like. No, they didn't look Black. Forget those pictures on the walls. Forget everything you knew. Forget what your grandmother told you. Your grandmom didn't know. They look like that. Why? Because it benefits them because they look the same. So would it benefit a dark-skinned person today whose land it really does go back to, whether you agree or not? or does it in fact benefit the colonizer who is telling you or putting these things out there? Oh, well, you can't be the dark-skinned Indian because the dark-skinned Indians are these people, and they show you somebody who looks light. Aren't the darn European claiming chiefdom today when it comes to the Bureau of Indian Affairs?
Well, I get my information from a real Indian. So at this time
That's
with
what I
the
mean.
Native Americans, hold on. So this time back in the day, there were Moors, which are your people, and there was American Indians. So you were on the right and they were on the left. Did they know of your existence?
Well,
You just asked.
It's just a yes or no
Let me
question.
read.
Oh, no.
You told me the
Yes,
one right
they
now.
did.
Today, wait, hold on, Cujo. So they knew of your existence, but
Yes.
somehow,
Because y'all keep entertaining his colored questions. He talks colored. So because he talks colored,
I talk very
it's been an
simply.
hour and 20 minutes
Try to
of
play
going
games.
back and forth.
Let me
I'm tired of
finish.
this going back and forth, and he keeps talking colored.
Calm down.
We're wasting
Calm
time.
down.
He's
I
talking
ain't got
colored.
colors.
He's
Hey,
talking
calm down,
colored.
man.
He keeps
You're
saying
on the
Native
line.
American Indian. There's no such
Let me
thing.
finish talking.
Get him off the platform.
Let me
People out
finish
here
talking.
getting killed
Cujo
or
is
murdered,
fighting
and we're
you on the
entertaining
platform to have balance.
discoloredness. Get him out of here.
It's divine.
He's causing destruction. Get him out of here.
I feel you.
This is craziness. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Nobody's doing nothing. He's causing destruction.
100.
He's just causing destruction.
Hold up.
He
hold
talks
up,
colored.
hold-
And because
hold
we
up,
entertain his colored talk, we can keep on going over and back and forth. So there's no such thing as a damn Native American.
Like a
Stop entertaining that.
Yusuf, look
Stop
at it like
entertaining
this.
them. There's no
Look at it
such
like this.
thing. There's
Look at it
no
like
such thing. It doesn't exist.
Look at it like this.
Because we entertain it, we're going to keep going back and forth. We're going to keep going back and forth. Stop entertaining it. It
Look at it
doesn't exist.
Look at it like this, Yusuf. Like if I'm teaching like a 3-year-old, right, and he just keep thinking people's chocolate bars, I gotta show him in different little ways, even if he don't get it at the end of the day. For the children that's around him, listen, it's for them then, because it might be people that's confused on what we're doing or whatever and what we're talking about. So while we correct him, it's for them to get a clear conception of how idiotic it seems, and then like keep on letting him say the stuff where it don't make sense, because the people listening will hear that. I'm pretty sure the chat is going wild right now about how lost this guy is. Even the so-called Indian brothers, they
You
want to
think
be
Native
Indian,
Americans
right?
is the first
They
in
would agree
America?
that he going left. He doesn't understand concepts and we can't even speak law. He doesn't understand. He's like a baby at mind. He doesn't understand that you can't touch the hot oven because it'll burn your hand. Don't go over there, Timmy. And he keep going over to the oven, and we keep tripping him, and he getting mad that we pulling him back. Like, I want to go to the oven, and we like, look, that's to burn you. Don't go over there.
So the chat is lit right now.
Clear concepts. Like what's like he still hasn't identified himself. So we're dealing with like a COINTELPRO type operation. He gets to ask all the questions, and he gets to be Mr. Unidentified flying object.
Well, let me just add something. So this is why, like, if you want, you can let him back on if he's still listening or whatever. But this is why I was going to say this is now perfect time for me to read from the Time Walker, because he's asking if they knew of our existence and all this stuff when there was like we were the ones that had treaties with them, like within the continent, right? So I got the Time Walker open, and this would answer this question. So this is like the Time Walker is from a so-called Native American. He was Sioux, Souix. That's the tribe that he was from. And he wrote this back in, I think it was 1984. It's in the Library of Congress. I could tell you the numbers and all that. It's really hard to find because of all the information that he had in this, right? Now, this is on page 72. And the author's name is Meredith Quinn. And he uses the term Indian in here or whatever. He says American Indian and so on and so forth, right? But he talks about the Moorish Empire and the treaties that they started introducing treaties with within so-called Indian tribes within themselves as well. So, anyways, to answer this guy's question, this is from the Time Walker, right? This is on page 72, mid-paragraph. The American Indian had a friend, a true friend that they had never heard of or even knew he existed. Why? Because the existence of this friend had been completely erased from world history, not by accident, but by a planned covert action, which makes all world history a period of around 1,000 years in error and not correct. This unknown friend set the legal patterns for all world nations that deal with, quote, Indian tribes. It just like deals with Indian tribes and nations of America by establishing set rules to treaties which could only be overcome by making the Indian believe he was something he was not. All right? I'm speaking about making the Indian believe he is a citizen of a country other than his own, and this country had no provisions for him to become a citizen of this country. I believe such a friend existed even when references or lack of them gave no possibility of such an existence, only that a possible individual might show up at a later date, because on March 11th, 1972, at 4:10 p.m., I presented to the Church of Rome through the missions in the state of California an Indian manifesto. So just a note. This is one thing, like the Indian manifesto. I've never found it or anything. I don't know if any of you Moors
It's the
know what it is or have found it.
Yeah.
The Te Deum, yeah, exactly. So going back, I presented to the Church of Rome through the missions in the state of California an Indian manifesto, and occupied one mission, which by proxy occupied not only the missions in Mexico, United States, but wherever secular treaties existed. The manifesto contained only 8 out of over 100 articles and these treaties. Having personally studied and read over 300 Indian treaties, I knew that the US, Canada, Mexico, North and South American countries, France, England, Spain, Denmark, Norway, never came close to the stipulations found in the secular treaties. So simple logical deduction concluded that the authority and nation that discovered the Americas and signed treaties with its citizens did not belong to the family of civilized nations. Okay, and it goes on. I knew the period of time that this nation had to exist. I knew the period of time that this nation had to exist. Only there were no references that such a nation ever visited Indians, but it ruled the rest of the world for a period of 700 years, and this was the Moorish Empire. Almost 12 years later from the date of the Indian Manifesto in 1984, I found the name of the individual that signed these treaties with Indians. Right now, remember he said the American Indians had a friend, so obviously they knew about us and we were chilling. To prove that no Indian ever heard of or no historian has yet to place this existence in its proper place and time, I'll give you his name. Caliph Abdullah es Sagal, the last king of the Moorish Empire of Spain and ruled through 1491 AD, who sold his kingdom to Queen Isabella I in 1491 for $17 million. This is what I was talking about to Salam a couple of days ago. This is what some of the stuff that I was telling I think I told what's the dude's name?
Artie?
The attorney dude. Artie. I think I mentioned this to Artie as well, and you know, they don't know about this stuff, and they're, you know, twisting their eyes and stuff and saying that I'm crazy. And this is from a so-called native
Sheldon,
Indian.
well, watch this, right? Oh, it's so funny. Remember how he said that they got the Te-Deum between the Indians and the Moors, but the Moors had held the Jure Treaty that goes way back before that they gave to the Aztecs, called the Aztec Stone or the Eagle Bowl Treaty.
Right.
So this is not as deep.
Right.
And then when it gets to what the whole problem was with the Dakota Time Walkers, the Catholic Church found out that if people understood Arabic over here, it allows the servants to become allodial. So they were killing everybody.
And that's what I was just about to get to that more. I was just about to get to that because he mentions that in here. And it's not even Arabic. It's an like older Urdu, language than Arabic.
Like an Urdu type jump.
He mentions that in here. He doesn't mention the exact language, but he mentions that it's older than Arabic, and he talks about that's what the treaty, that language, the original treaties were signed in. And so it mentions here, as I go on, I'll go on, and it mentions how the Vatican was a third party to those agreements. And so that's why when Caliph Abdullah El Sagal sold this part of the kingdom, the Vatican was able to be like, okay, this part goes to Spain, this part goes to
and then
to Portugal.
The Medicis at the time, right?
And then when they came across here, right, and then when they came across here now, and because we fell and all that, they started making new treaties because they knew that they had the old treaties and they knew these new treaties wouldn't stand. But anyway, as I go on, right? So anyways, Caliph Abdullah El Sagal, last king of the Moorish Empire of Spain, ruled through 1491 AD, who sold his kingdom to Queen Isabella I. So he sold his kingdom, which means his kingdom that he sold was the Americas.
The portion of the kingdom, right. Yeah.
He sold his kingdom. His kingdom. So the Americas was his kingdom.
Yeah.
Right? This reference can be found in Ripley's Believe It or Not 9 series pocketbook, a division of Simon and Schuster.
Right.
Okay, whatever. That's what it says here. Why is this name brought to light? Find me a treaty that covers the pueblos and rancheros with Spain or the Vatican, and we can put his name back to sleep. All right. Why did the United States in its study state that Spain was subject to these Indian treaties? The alleged discovery of the Americas by Columbus was not a treaty. Cortez signed no treaties outside of the Treaty of Spain, which a land purchase outside the Treaty of Spain, which a land purchase took place with the United States for the state of Florida. Spain has signed no treaties with Indians since 1492. So what treaties is Spain subject to? Page 74.
Right.
So that was a question, right? Next, civilized record histories contradict itself on evidence recorded on the subject of Columbus. In order to delete the name of Caliph Abdullah El Sagal as the discoverer of the Americas, and could prove it by the treaty signed with the Indians of Americas, Spain, after the purchase of the nation from El Sagal. Remember, this is El Sagal's side of the. This is his territory that they purchased, right? So, backtracking to prove it by the treaty signed with the Indians of the Americas. Spain, after the purchase of the nations of El Sagal and after the return of Columbus from the Caribbean, Queen Isabella I filed the Te-Deum that you talked about, right, with the International Court in The Hague in February 18th, 1493, headed as the the revising of ridding the earth of a union meridian. The revising and ridding the earth of a union meridian.
Okay.
Meridian. Okay. Now it goes on. If it was recorded that Spain or the territories that make up what is now called Spain had to delete the original discovery of the Americas by Spain, and the new discovery entered, who was the original individual that discovered the Americas prior to Isabella the First? Keep in mind, recorded facts cannot be disputed. Spain or Spanish people did not drive the Moors out of their alleged country, as stated by Anwar G. Cheney in his book, The Arabic Language, its role in history, page 81. But as he put it, after the fall of Granada in 1492, it was a territory purchase between two royal families, Caliph Abdullah El Sagal and Queen Isabella I, for $17 million in 1491. So, just pausing there. So, once again, it says Caliph Abdullah El Sagal, his territory were the Americas. Right? And this is by a so-called native Indian who's writing this. Okay, the legal procedure. It was a territory purchase between two royal families, Caliph Abdullah El Sagal and Queen Isabella I, for $17 million in the year of 1491. A legal procedure no different than the Treaty of Louisiana and Florida, which were land purchases only. If pueblos and rancheros have territories by treaty and no linguist can translate them, what language were they written in? If the so-called royal language of Spain is Castilian, which is made up of over 6,000 Arabic words, the rest from Latin, who are the Spaniards and where did they descend from? Right? Now, why? When pueblos of New Mexico having treaties in an unknown language that they cannot translate, when my name was thrown in as one, hold on a second. Why? When pueblos of New Mexico having treaties in an unknown language that they cannot translate, when my name was thrown in as one could help in the translation, overnight it was made a closed issue or reference no longer open for review. And then he says, like, hey, I'm no language expert. This dumb Sui, or Siu, I guess that's how you pronounce it. That's Sioux, which is one of the tribes. This dumb Sioux boy from the plains of South Dakota almost speaks the English language. I hate languages. I avoid them like the plague. But then let me see. Translate. Okay, he's just going on here. Oh, he talks about the prayer of Atlantis. Okay, so I'll keep going. Let me just keep going because there's more information. Just because I'm able to prove that there is no language expert that can properly translate the Song of St. John the Divine and the Prayer of Atlantis doesn't make me an expert. If I don't know a subject, all one does is sit down and learn it. Just because I'm not a historian doesn't mean I can't sit down, learn it, and rewrite it, especially when one can find facts that have no truth but are made to look like the truth. Look at a fact. Queen Elizabeth I purchased Spain from El Sagal which included about 3,000 warships and set for $17 million. But we know it didn't include the advanced weapons of the Moors, because England defeated Spain with only 35 ships. Come on now. It says, come on now. Spain had 86 ships that could ram each English ship and sink it without firing a shot. How did Spain lose? Each English ship would have to carry enough warfare to sink 86 ships apiece. Not even the ships today can carry that much buckshot. Let's see.
Hold on one
Okay.
sec. Brother Yusuf has a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Moore.
It's Brother Sheldon. But when you were reading the part, when they sold it, when he sold it for $17 million to Isabella, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay, is she a Moor? Because, like, could he sell it to her? Like, I got another book. It says, The Sultan and Queen Isabella and the secret something with Islam. And it says that when she got married in a Moorish craftsman. And then, like, the way you make it seem like he sold it to her, like, I don't think, like, they would just sell it to a modern year, like Britney Spears today. I don't feel like Isabella was,
well,
you know, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl.
Well, she wasn't blonde hair, blue eyed, because if she's from that region, number one, from what I comprehend, she would be an amalgamated Moor, but of a darker hue. So she had some European in it, but she was still a darker hue, right? And I remember reading. I think it's also in here that he explains the reason why he sold it. It's either here or I read it somewhere else. The reason why he sold it is because while he was in so-called Spain, he tried to take over Castiles and got caught and got sent to jail in a Castilian prison. And while he was in there, to get out of prison, he made a deal with Queen Isabella to get out, to sell his territory, once again, to sell his territory to Queen Isabella, which were the Americas. And that's what got him out of jail. And when he got out of jail, they sent him back to Morocco, and the Beys there dug out his eyes. Matter of fact, I think it's in here that they talk about it, if I get to it. They dug out his eyes, but they had to keep him alive because he was the one who signed the treaties with the so-called native, with some of the so-called Native American tribes. That's why they had to keep him alive, or else he would have been dead because he sold out.
Oh man, Islam. More, I wanted to bring up a point about that. That's crazy because it's starting to sound like now that the Beys like set him up to do that and then killed him, and everybody who was involved with it. Because Isabella, she was from the Bey family, but it's just you have to say it the so-called French way. Is Baux, the house of Baux. Well. And they called him the Il Bey, Il Bayu.
That I don't know. That I can't confirm.
Weirdo shit.
I never heard
the word Isabella literally means a Moorish woman.
I know that. Okay, that I can't confirm. I don't know that.
No, because I was studying it a minute ago, like looking up this,
I do know Isabella is a so-called Hebrew word. I do know that. Like, it's not English, like right. Elizabeth. That's where Isabella, which is Elizabeth. Isabel is Hebrew, which we know is really Phoenician. So I'm like, that's still not Britney. Like, what would Britney Spears be doing with a Phoenician name? Like, I don't see that, especially back then. Especially back then. That's why I do see her having Moorish blood. Like, she literally got married in a Moorish fashion. Like, that was known in history. I'm like, okay, why is she wearing Moorish clothes? Because why was everything when she got married? It was moored out. The whole wedding was Moorish.
Yeah.
So let me
real quick. She got married on the right side, and I think like in history, like that's the dominant side. Like I think she only got to do that because of her Moorish bloodline. Like not even Prince. Who was the guy? I forgot his name. She married. Yeah. He didn't.
I believe his name is Ferdinand.
He's on the right side, but dominant. Like I'm the one that this goes through, not you. He stood on the left side for during the wedding. I thought that was interesting too. Like just to show more that she's a Moor some type of way. But it was something else you said you were reading at the end there. I forgot what it was, and I had another question for it, but I gotta hear you read it again.
Okay,
it was probably the last thing you just read.
So it must be, look at the facts. Queen Isabella I purchased Spain from El Segal, which included 3,000 warships for $17 million.
No. I went back to that. You was reading something else totally different.
About language?
Right after the language part, because I know he said
what about language? He said, hey, I'm no language expert, just this dumb Sioux boy from the plains of South Dakota. That one? Almost speaks the English language. I hate languages. I avoid like the plague. Just because I was able to prove that part?
The next
one. Just because I'm not a historian doesn't mean I can't sit down, learn it, and rewrite it.
Not those facts. You had just read it. The last thing you just read, like right before I asked my question, like the green sheet was at the.
Well, the part. Well, so then that's maybe it's this part. The fact that Isabella I purchased Spain from El Segal, which included 3,000 warships for $17 million. But we know it didn't include the advanced weapons of the Moors because England defeated Spain with only 35 ships.
The treaties, right?
Come on now.
The treaties, real quick. Okay, in the book with the secret thing with Isabella, they make it seem as if the Sultan was, like, I like the jail part. Like, he was held, he was kidnapped or whatnot. But they make it seem like it was some treaties that she was trying to sign with him so she can come over here. But it was really, he was kidnapped and sold. See, I didn't know that, but because they try to explain it like England and Morocco had treaties. You know what I mean? Like, but it was really a kidnapping that was going on. Like, that's what I think, that part right there.
Well, like I said, that part, I can't remember if it's in here I read that or somewhere else. But I remember reading he got greedy, like it's almost like he got greedy and he tried to take over Castiles. And he took some people and they were defeated and then he got sent to prison. And he made a deal to get.
Am I thinking when you say Castile?
And he made a deal to get
that so I can clear.
Because she's Castilian. Because she's a Castilian.
Is that the Spanish, the so-called Spanish Castilian family? Like the Castilian, what is it? Because I know Spanish or Spaniard is a misnomer, and it's really the Castilians. Now, was the Castilians class of churches conjoined together? Like, how did that form?
Well, I think my comprehension of it is Castiles is an area. He went into another area and trying to take that over, and the people of that area were Castilians, and that is where Isabella was from, because she's a Castilian. And so in trying to take over this area, he was defeated. And I think he took a couple of people with him. I guess some of the Moors didn't want to go with him. They're saying like, we don't need that. And he just got greedy and he went there and he got defeated and he got put in prison. And then in order for him to get out of prison, he made this deal. And he sold his part of his territory, which was the Americas. And in here, And see this is the thing where, like, all these people like the division. They like to get with the division. In here, it explains that specific Moors, in order to seal treaties with a lot of these so-called native Indian tribes, they married their daughters. It says that in here. So these were super strong ties, and these ties, because of these ties now, these specific so-called Native American tribes, they became super, super, super rich because of that. And it says that in here, right? So let me see if I can get down to that part. Yeah, okay, so talked about the 86 ships and the buckshot. That's right. It says, no, that's right. There had to be prior agreement that made it look like Spain lost the confrontation. Why? And it says, why? If you study the Indian Manifesto, which has only 8 articles, and there are over 100 articles, Spain could not meet the financial burden of these treaties with the Indians, and neither could all the rest of the civilized nations. The Moors did. I can locate to this day over 200 pueblos. I keep saying that wrong. 200 pueblos that used to exist in Texas, New Mexico. Huh? Pueblos. Thank you. The Moors did. I can locate to this day over 200 pueblos that used to exist in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona that Spain had to maintain a population and an army for each pueblo that was to be protected from any aggression by a foreign power, plus 8 articles in the manifesto and more. But Spain was not the only nation.
There wasn't a war when they said that Spain had 86 ships and they can easily speak the English.
Yeah, but they're saying the English beat them in the war.
Okay, so what he's saying, there wasn't a war. It was just they had to write that into history.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. So there wasn't really a war because it doesn't make sense.
That's what made me think that they just set up as a goal to catch him trying to sell the empire.
Right. Yeah.
They never really lost control. That's what made me think that they set it all up.
Sorry, Kasir, a little bit more in the mic. You're kind of low.
Oh, my fault. No, that's what I was thinking. Did they set Ezegol up to catch him trying to sell the empire when they knew that they were under the monarch? I mean, they were under the rulership of the Moors that was in Andalusia.
Yeah.
Because we be looking at it different. Like, what if all of this slavery stuff was really just coming over here to capture the Negroes who were the pale faces that was trying to gain, ownership and rulership when they had no, you weren't supposed to even see some of these documents. Because it's all about who's the foreigners. Like, we know Darcian people aren't the foreigners. So, like, we're trying to figure out who these pale Europeans are, because we already know about the dark-skinned Europeans. Who are these pale guys? And what's their claim?
That's why they didn't come into power until like the 1800s. We're still fighting Moors and Moors.
And their power is still not even. It's like a color of power. They never had no color of authority. Never really had it.
Yeah.
Brother Sheldon, Islam, like everything that you were reading, and also I think like you referenced already, you were reading that initially to shed light to Salam like a couple of days ago, and then Grand Sheik had actually shouted out the Treaty of Tordesillas.
Tordesillas, yeah.
Tordesillas, yeah, and that's on the Portuguese side of things, right? But what we're talking about is pretty much the fall of like Granada and like Spaniard side of things, and then the coming together of the Castillos and then Ferdinand's family, so that way Spain could be founded, and then the Treaty of Tordesillas on the other side of it. I only started the research after the last class with the two references that y'all gave, and that led me to kind of like a succession of treaties that were getting signed and getting pressure put on side of the Pope and all of that stuff, because it seemed like they were all underneath his thumb. Yeah. And with the treaties that came after that, like one was, I think, like 100 leagues off of the coast of Portugal and Spain, and then like a revision of that treaty that would come later would be like maybe 350, and I could be off on the second, but it's like 350 leagues, we'll say. And they kind of knew shrewdly at that time from the way that they were traveling around. And this is in between time when Christopher Columbus was going from Portugal, or my bad, from like what is it, Italy to Portugal, to, you know, and back and forth there. And then, you know, he would be recruited by the Spanish, and all this time. This is in between voyages. They have moved it like 350 leagues out, which would happen to give Portugal territorial claim falsely to Brazil. Right. So my question though was, with us now thinking about this and knowing that, you know, the Americas are, you know, like an extension of Morocco, so this is the same landmass, and then with them shrewdly doing what they did with the treaty that came after for Brazil, would that make all of the Moors over here also like Sephardic Yehudi? Or you know what I mean? Like, because at first I thought that was just a concept for, like, you know, geographical Granada and you know, everything on it, like, you feel me? Like I guess that's the question. I hope it makes sense.
I see like Southeast Asian like Australoid connection. Like, so the people from Australia and the people from like Southeast Asia being the, you know, all the Hindustanis and the Balakistanians and all those. Though, from what I found doing the research through the DNA, I know that's all frowned upon when it comes to Moorish, but if it's like with these things the Europeans taken and, you know, mixed around, if you know how he lies, you can kind of like look through it and find where he's telling the truth at, because there's always a truth hidden in these lies that they do. Yeah. And what I'm saying with when they implement or institute something, it's to try to take us out the land and put themselves in by using some form of data. So what I researched it back to is, what's the commonality between this European and this land? And it's that Neanderthal. This is the crazy part, Morris. Easy one on them. Easy one on them real quick. European only popped up 6,000, and then the oldest that he'll say is 8,000 years ago. But the Neanderthal went extinct 35,000 years ago. So how would he be the Neanderthal? This is an ancient archaic man, right? So now this is the deeper part. If the Neanderthal goes all the way back to like 35,000, right? All right, cool. There's another people before them that came called the Denisovans, and all the artifacts they find from them are female. So we talking about a female group of people that existed in ancient prehistoric times. Then you got the Neanderthal, and then they say the Neanderthal interbred with modern man. Based off of Ballantyne's, we already know modern man is like a monster, aka based off the definition of human being. So are they saying that the Neanderthal, this archaic man, actually had interbred with a monster form of man? This point making that the European missing link would be,
you know what I mean? Man about
hold on. Let me answer that brother's question.
Who's that?
Say that again.
That's me saying that.
Who are? I mean, state your name. Sorry.
Adon Anthony Eliza Bay.
Oh, Islam.
Yeah. Ain't no man and no another man about to bring forth no life. So we gonna kill that right off the rip.
Wait, where'd you get that from?
That's the way it sounded to me. Like, what you talking about, a man and a man? What's that about?
Who said man and man?
No, nobody said man and man.
You talking about a Neanderthal and what else? What else you say? Say what you said again.
Denisovan.
Say what you said again.
You said with the Neanderthal interbred with modern man.
And what was this Neanderthal, male or female, gender wise?
They had both. Just like how modern man would have both.
Yeah, okay. All right. I just wanted to be clear on that. Another thing I want to say, when the Prophet went to the Pan American conference in Cuba, You know what I'm saying? He went to represent the Moors. And you know what I'm saying? Some Indian guy went to represent, some Indian chief went to represent the Native American Indians or whatever. So we Moors, you know what I'm saying?
Who said Indian?
Not none of that. We Moors, period.
Who said Indian?
Huh? I'm just saying in regards, I ain't talking about you. If you feel guilty, go on and put your shoes in feet in the shoes. But I'm
Why
talking about
more. This is why are you talking to your brother with all this animosity about like?
I ain't talking to you with no animosity, man. I'm making a point about something else.
Because you're saying stuff that I never said.
No, he's not talking. He's talking about before. He's talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what you talking about now.
Okay,
the guy that made the comment about the you know, talking about the Native Americans on all of that. You know what I'm saying? I only look at these guys as like they've been sent. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're trying to prevent the emergency. They want us to not be Moors. Like, they know we Moors. They want us to not be Moors. You know what I'm saying? But we not want to be Moors. And truth don't need nobody. Just to camel back off of what Yusuf said earlier, truth don't need no one to defend it and all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, truth don't need no one to defend it. If these ones want to be Negro, black, colored, Ethiopian, and all that, then let them go and be that. I don't even care. Like, why we got to care for it? You know what I'm saying?
Let's follow him, man.
Yeah, we got our nationality and birthright. They want to be Negro, black, and Indian, and African American, and all that, but then let them go ahead and rock with that. We're gonna stay being Moors. We're not getting off the ark. You know what I'm saying?
Islam.
Islam.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Islam, man.
Okay.
True, but we gotta try at least once though. We gotta try at least once.
Yo, can I answer this brother's question? This guy asked me a question like 10 minutes ago.
I wanted to hear it.
Yo, so you asked about we would be the Sephardim Yehudi or Sephardim Jews, because we are also the so-called Jews from
Islam.
Al-Andalus.
When they say Sephardic, that just means Spanish speaker, well, so-called Moorish land.
Yep. All right. So to continue, I'm just gonna continue reading some more because it starts going into Vatican. Unless y'all don't want to hear anymore.
Go ahead, Moore.
All right.
Go ahead, Moore. Do your thing.
All right. So I'm backtracking one paragraph, so it's seamless. So it says, if you study the Indian Manifesto, which has only 8 articles and there are over 100 articles, Spain could not meet the financial burden of these treaties with Indians, and neither could all the rest of the new civilized nations. The Moors did. I can locate to this day over 200 pueblos that used to exist in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona that Spain had to maintain a population and an army for each pueblo that was to be protected from any aggression by a foreign power, plus the 8 articles in the manifesto and more. But Spain was not the only nation that had treaties with the Indian of Americas. Norway, Holland, Denmark, and Austria, just to name a few, had secular treaties. These were taken over by France and England because of long-established rights. Before the Moorish conquest, Spain, France, and England were part of the old Roman Empire, with Roman descendants ruling these countries. With civilized peoples now.
Are these the Ethiopian Roman rulers, so-called?
I don't know. I'm not sure, because I know you're getting with Rome being from Ethiopian stuff. Yeah, I know that, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm just reading here. So with the civilized peoples now having brought back their territories, the old ranks would continue on. but the Moors had created another world power because they were still, in part, an ancient culture where the lifestyle all interlinked. So the empire had to set aside citizens whose job it was to take care of international business.
Yeah.
All right. So this is, just a side note. Talking about international business in the 1400s and for 700 years, like international business since, and that goes with all the trade routes that we had and everything like that. You know what I mean? Going all the way out to China and stuff. We talked about the trade routes and stuff like that. So if you're talking international business, we're talking about the planet. Okay, so once again, but the Moors had created another world power because they were still in part an ancient culture where the lifestyle all interlinked, so that the empire had to set aside citizens whose job it was to take care of international business, much like the empire of the Israelites who set aside Hebrews to do this business. This power was the Vatican of Rome, who could no longer be in the religious business because the Moors already had their corporate state of religion. Right? From this came the secular treaties, or the Vatican treaties, in which the Vatican became the third party to these Moorish treaties. So once again, that's how the Vatican was able to divide up the Americas, because they were the third party. After the civilized had bought back their land titles, and the Moors who had kept international law or laws of the nation's letter perfect, which was created long before the old Greek Empire, these treaties of the Indians of the Americas had to continue under the new nations, which gave continued power to the Vatican, whose obligation was to fulfill the stipulations. From this was born the concept church and state rule. All right.
Crazy.
So this dude is going in here. This so-called native Indian is going in. For this reason, the Indian Manifesto was given to a representative of Rome, which were the missions in the state of California. But it was a psychic. Hold on a second. Sorry. But it was a physic manifesto, which caused the Vatican to make many trips to visit the Indians of the Americas to see if its international executive order from 1492 was carried out, and if it was successful.
So wouldn't that mean the Indians are working for Rome?
Right?
Business.
Well, I would think
if they're using,
That's ancient Rome.
Well, I don't know.
If they're gonna be checking in with the Indians to make sure that the manifesto is being adhered to, then they have to be working for them.
Well, I would think. Well, I would think that Rome was actually working for the Indians because they're the third party to the agreement. Oh, you understand? Or maybe I'm not comprehending it properly, but because they're the third party to the agreement, right? And they're hired to we hired them to make sure everything was straight. So they had to constantly make trips back and forth. That's the way I comprehended it. But you were saying that you're saying
well, I'm just looking at
it's different.
The aspect that the maker of the treaty, the initial party, the primary party, is non-existent at this point. So because it's allegedly sold or transferred or whatever. So now you have the two people who are the second and third parties of the treaty are now making decisions with regard to what should be going on when they don't even have that power like that. They don't even have power because there's no primary
Right.
member of the
Yeah,
treaty.
it doesn't belong to the church.
But
Doesn't belong to the church too? Like, okay, because I'm thinking about something else. They're talking about y'all guys are talking about the quote unquote Indians working on. I'm talking about something else. I'm sorry.
But the thing about this, what's interesting though is
Yeah.
the rest of the empire still existed, and so because the Americas were his part, it's still part of the greater empire, right? But now because I guess because he's no longer in ownership of it, like it's no longer his territory, even though it's part of the greater empire. Now I guess the Vatican becomes the person who watches over those treaties for the rest
Hey, Brother
of the
Sheldon,
empire.
I got a question. Okay, so around this time, was there like a conflict between the Holy Roman Empire and the Moorish Empire? That's my question.
No. As far as I know, no. Because the Holy Roman Empire and the Roman Empire were two different. The Holy Roman Empire is that pretty much the Habsburgs here at Germany in pretty much all of Gaul, really. That's the Holy Roman Empire. So this is one reason why when you start digging in the history of Germany and stuff like that, there's Moors everywhere out here. There's like Moors Street and and Moors this and Moors that everywhere. And von Zeiten is one of the Moors from the Prussian army, was the general commander of the Prussian army that was instrumental in setting up Germany. So the Holy Roman Empire is different than the Roman Empire.
Because I was reading the Talisman by Euro Bay, and he was basically talking about how Muhammad came and how he took over certain regions, and then it became Islam. And so it to me, throughout history, it just seemed like a back and forth between like a Christian empire and an Islamic Moorish empire. That's why I asked the question.
Well, it was always from what I comprehend, it was always obviously between. It was like the Moors and the rest of it was the world against. Well, Moors were the rest of the world, and then there was Europe, the Europeans, which was Rome, right? But then there was a part. But then when you dig it into deeper, and then a seer could speak to this more, like a lot more deeply, then you find out that actually Rome actually started in like Ethiopia type of thing, and that's a whole other tangent that a seer digs into that way deeper than I can,
right?
Because it's crazy. But there was a part of, as far as I comprehend, there was a part of the Roman Empire that knew something was up, and then they became the Holy Roman Empire, which was which was the Habsburgs of this region. And that's why, if you look at, that's one of the reasons why when you start, if you read 10 Years of Secret Diplomacy, talking about how Spain and France tried to destabilize Morocco in like 1890 and stuff, and Europe and England was just kind of watching in the background to see what would happen. Germany sent warships off the coast of Morocco in support of Morocco. Like Germany was always in support of Morocco because of old treaties and stuff like that. So yeah, that goes back to that.
Remember that speech Benjamin Franklin said about what he called Palatine Boers? when he was saying like basically everybody from over in the Germany area at that time was swarthy dark. Yeah, it's no, remember you was talking about how the Roman Empire was different than the Holy Roman Empire. There's a family called the Maracadados, but they spell it Mavroco Rdatos. So like it's the Maracadados family, and they're said to be like Phoenician Greeks from Chios, but they said like their branches extend off to Ottoman Empire, Wallachia, Moldavia, and modern Greece. And this is a family, right, whose members were given equal status to a prince of the Holy Roman Empire, later to become the Hospodars. But I found it very, very interesting that they were called the Maracadados, and then they were a family, and they were given equal status as like a prince of the Holy Roman Empire. And they got like a picture of them and a picture of their crest. Their crest is red, white, and blue, and their the picture of them, they look like the fair-skinned Louisiana people, like what we would call Creole. That's how they look. So it's like, what? So is this the look of what they're calling a European, and then trying to say, oh well, this is who we come from? Because if they do, I mean, because it still goes back to Moors. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, it's no way that the Europeans come in but by way of the Moors. And then when you add in all the treaties that was going on before time immemorial, then like, where do the people who accept the Indian paradigm come in to like basically say that we're not part of the indigenous collection? And if we're the ones who actually had the original titles of allodium, based off of the Dakota Time Walker's information and something we could pull right out of the Library of Congress.
Right.
You ever notice that too? Like when you study, like if you deal with the Indians, like, and see like what are they doing to claim land? When you hear of land patents, all right, that put that on the shelf. So what you're trying to do now is prove to the colonizer that you're not part of the Negro 1866 collection of free Indians, but you are of the actual indigenous, the original indigenous. The whole point of you being dark-skinned is what makes you be classified as the freedman thing, because they're trying to play games, obviously. I mean, it's a bureau that's under the Department of Interior doing all this. And when you call them people up, they don't know what's going on. They literally got like Walmart people that answer the phone when you call the BIA. They don't know the law or nothing like that. And I find that odd that like Indians are pushing like land patents, which is okay, like get your land back or whatever. But if they're saying land patents are the thing that gives Indians ownership, then they don't understand a allodial title. It's like, who gave you the patent? If it's anybody working for the United States or any of their land offices, then you're saying that the United States is the allodial title holder, and you're okay with him giving you unoccupied land, because that's what a land patent is. So I'm, I that confuses me when it comes to like, if we putting stuff on the record, like, and like going to a court or so-called court, like a Article 3 court, to get lands back. What are you? I mean, I understand people got their beliefs, but what are you going to use that could actually make laws that where now anybody can use it, like your brethren or other people that don't have everything squared away? If you go to the court, this Article 3, and put something on the record, you can make new case law now where Moors or anybody indigenous can use that to get their lands back. We can set precedent, is what I'm saying. But not if we're going to play around with like just feelings and us arguing with who wants to call themselves Moor or indigenous, because at the end of the day, it's about what you can prove in law, not what you can make people believe on YouTube. It's like, what can you prove in law?
Right.
Like right here, I got the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, right? And it's under the seal of the United States Library of Congress. So Is that special? No, they got color authority. But if I'm going to go to a so-called court, this Article 3, this way I could have self-authenticating documents where they can't say, oh, that's just hearsay, that's belief. No, this is what y'all say of what I'm proving to you from the Moorish treaty. But in Article 6, it says, if any Moor shall bring a citizen of the United States, right, or their effects to his majesty, the citizen shall immediately be set at liberty and the effects restored. And in the like manner, if any Moor not a subject to these dominions, right? See, so you didn't lose your stuff with states and all that, shall make any prize of the citizens of America.
Right.
Something just changed now. Something just changed. Or their effects, they should bring them to the and they bring them to the ports of majesty. They shall be immediately released, as they will be considered under His Majesty's protection. The only reason I bring that up and read that is because it's like, yo, we have international laws that even Indians can be recognized under if they want to be American citizens and not United States citizens. You under the damn the Sultan's protection.
Right.
And they can go and say, oh, well, don't know Sultan exists. Well, the same way our family members are past form, but we are them today. So if the blood coursing through my veins is the same blood of the indigenous people that was here before, I can speak as my ancestors. So, and same as you can. If this document can support your people today, why fight it instead of unite under it? Because it can protect you today, aside from United States citizens and all that.
That's the same thing that we were reading about earlier. Somebody was talking about that what they want to do is fight. They don't want unity. They don't want land. They don't want nationality. They want to argue back and forth with Moors.
And Moors, like, we're doing our right thing, because like when you deal with the codification of the laws of Georgia statute, we already know their stuff in their statutes, but I'm just trying to draw a conclusion of how you can see the same thing in their laws and their acts or whatever that we are kicking. That means we had to be doing something back in the day if they were recognizing it. So you deal with Georgia in 1818, right before they did the so-called Indian Removal Act or whatever that is. You got this thing called the Disabilities of Free Persons of Color, found in the codification of the Georgia Statutes Law, chapter 33, and we go down to Act 2, dealing with free persons of color. And what it says in this, it's an exemption. I'm gonna just skip to it, because basically the whole document is talking about how free persons of color, they were getting, they couldn't own any real estate, they couldn't own guns, they were in debt, they were debtors, they couldn't be landowners or electors, all of this craziness, right? But when you skip down to 47, it says exemptions in favor of Aborigines, right, Moors, and Hindus, right? So they want to say, oh, Noble Ali dressed like a Hindu. Well, they got it in law, though. And then when Noble Ali said it was Moors, they got it in law. Aborigines, y'all want to be that? They got it in law. All right. The provisions, prohibitions, and penalties of this act shall not extend to any American Indian, free Moor, or Lascar, but by the proof of burden in any of the cases that any of the persons of color shall be by proof of color show that they exempt from that act. So you got to show the proof of claim is by you. Proof. Right. So why do we tell these people who want to be American Indians that they not? Let them be it. But they can't tell us that we ain't Moors either. So when it comes to this unity, people are being stubborn. Because we got laws that recognize both of us. And if they want to deal with a more structured unity and something that's more prevalent and recognized by the officials of the world, use this treaty. Use the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, because this is a 50-year mandate that Noble Jolly talked about, that they gave him the damn sealed document of when he took it back to the Adab chamber. When he said the 50-year mandate, if he told us everything, we go to sleep. But the 50-year mandate was a treaty. Because if you do the treaty record, like 1786, 50 years from that is 1836. 50 years from that is 1886 when the prophet was born. But the treaty was not signed again and recognized, right? They said it was made perpetual forever, but nobody was recognizing it. Him going to the Pan American conference and given that mandate of 50 years was them giving him the recognition of the treaties back. And if he went there with representatives of all the nations, the North, Central, and South America and the conjoining islands, and he went there with the so-called Indian, and they gave him the 50-year mandate, then that means he was the one that was in right accordance to deliver it to the people.
Right.
So I want to know, like, what's up? Why Indians got to be so tough and hard? And then, you know, what do they use as far as treaty that can be recognized? They say the Treaty of Paris a lot, but if you go to the Treaty of Paris, they don't talk about Indians in there, unless you're talking about the East Indians, because in Article 11 of the Peace and Friendship, the Peace and Friendship Treaty of Paris of 1763. Article 11 is talking about the East Indians, their allies, and the Eastern Indian name that they were dealing with and acknowledging. His name was Muhammad Ali Khan. Muhammad Ali Khan. So he knew something about his indigenousy and ancient creed, and then he was an Indian. So what are they using to be recognized as Indian when it comes to these treaties? I'm trying to, you know, I just want to be clear so I can be able to, you know, I don't know, help out. I don't get it. I really don't get it, because I'm still stuck on the name thing. Like,
this is my thing. I'm from Michigan originally. My domicile is in Texas, but in Michigan, it's like the states do whatever they can and whatever they do on the land anyway. You know, there are so-called, you know, Indian reservations and stuff like that. There's Soaring Eagle and stuff like that. And my thing is, if their treaty, if they can present one, is so strong, then the United States shouldn't be able to put a pipeline through there. Shouldn't be able to put a water pump there and pump all the water off the land, or try to take the casino and make them pay taxes. This stuff is happening right now in Michigan. So, and that's the territory of Michigan they doing that on. And if you look at the whole history of Michigan, from Chief Pontiac, who tried to get all the chiefs together to go against the Europeans, and then there was a French and Indian War. Then you had the Toledo War, and there, like I think Brother Sheldon said earlier, there was a lot of wars and battles over land on this land. So, like you said, on their side, and this is my experience with people that claim they're Native American, as we just call it that, as their nationality, you know, is they're fighting for their stuff. You know what I'm saying? They're fighting for their stuff on their end. So I see no win or lose to fight with them over our nationality as Moors, because we know we're Moors. That's just straight up. We know we're Moors. We got paperwork on it. You got treaties, it's in the Constitution, in the Library of Congress. We're Moors. We know we're Moors. And the lawyer, his whole thing is to argue. He can know the truth. These folks be knowing the truth. Everybody know the truth. Everybody know we're Moors. They can stay up and lie to you and say that, oh, we don't recognize you and all that kind of stuff. You know, last week, you know, that was a good thing. But lawyers, they lie. We all know this. Lawyers debate. They all know this. They defend people all the time that committed a murder, and then try to say this person didn't commit murder. So the go around with him for an hour, which is what it is. To me, it just showed me that these are the type of people you're going to come against. And as Moors, we need to always stand on our square. I'm done. That's all I need to say.
Brother, also, you had something to throw in there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Peace. You know, wonderful dialect today. But yeah, it's been a real intriguing conversation. You know, me personally, I don't prescribe like a lot of the brothers was putting out there. It's frivolous talk. It's frivolous conversation, and it becomes frivolous argument when you start dealing with the nom de guerre. Point blank, period. Because once you know what that is, it is what it is. And me, myself personally, you know, while we on the topic of, you know, like Indian and, you know, nationality, point blank, period. When I came into this, I had a lot of brothers that do be trying to claim that, I guess, that Indian side of the thing, but I've never seen none of that work when we are talking about law, history, or our story, our chronology in all of this. When we talking about our position, it's got to come back to the empire. Point blank period. It's got to come back to the Moorish heritage. And my studies have always shown me that. Even when I've started, like, say, being out here where I'm at in the de facto territory of Ohio. Just to give an example, when you're even talking about the Lenape, you can even look on, when you start even Googling Lenape, it's going to come up as Lenape Moors. Period. You know, Yamasee Moors, Washita Moors. So, and that's why I'm like, all this Indian talk conversation, I don't really prescribe to it because, like I said, I've never seen any power in it whatsoever. So when people even come to the table, like with these band of associates, like they had any power to make any agreements that's going to be honored. That's why we in the situation now, because the Nam Degurs ain't getting no agreements that's being honored anyway. Like I said, brothers don't want to be Moors. They want to be everything else. They want to hang on to everything else. So, you know, like I said, I've just been sitting back, listening to the brothers' dialogue.
Islam more.
So, that's it. I love all my brothers. Peace, Islam to all y'all. It's been a wonderful dialogue.
Peace more.
Islam. Yeah, I just wanted to say something. I'm looking at the side chat here, and Jay says I want to talk to Shelly the fake more.
You already know.
This guy's a joker, man. This guy's funny. Like if it hurts my feelings, you can say whatever you want. Like if it hurts my feelings, he said pretty much the entire continent looks the same, based on 3 people.
Jay don't even know his own identity, bro. That's the thing about it. He don't know who he is. He's trying to tell you who you are.
That's the main point. And that's the main point.
But I think what's really, like, me reading this Time Walker over again, the main thing that I'm picking up is that, number one, Sultan Abdullah, or Chief, I should say, Sultan Abdullah El-Sagal. The thing that I'm picking up is his territory were the Americas, and it says the quote American Indian had a great friend. So it was unity.
Lawnmowers.
You know what I'm saying? It was unity all across. So why is there? How is it that certain Indians or whatever say that we're not Moors and whatnot? But then it gets deeper though, because I'm here, and this is somebody needs to mute their thing because there's mad feedback.
Good, I got him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because this is the part where I wanted to read when it was getting into languages and stuff, right? So this is page. What page is this? 1 second, because this is like, I think this is like page 82 or something. Hold on a second. So yeah, I scrolled down a bit, and it says here. It can be easily assumed that the reason missions authority each Indian receives a small. Okay, I think it's here. See, I think it's page 82 or something like that. It says under the new Dakota languages, it is a slang expression for talking about a subject. It is a slang expression for talking about a subject. However, under the old forbidden Dakota languages, which was a multiple concept thought agreement, which in detail carried out several thoughts all at the same time, the word or such expressions had power arrangements in a proper sequence. It says first power, the language. Second power, how the language is to be used. Third power, how the language is to be spoken. So this right here like ends up tying into, you know, spells and all that, right? Which is really interesting. So third power, how the language is to be spoken. Fourth power, how the language is to express the subject. So forth, and so forth, and so on. There is not one tribal member today in the United States. There is not one tribal member today in the United States can deny that they speak the modern Indian language and not the old or ancient one, which is either secret or sacred. Little do these Indians know that the old language got into this category because of an international executive order issued by the Vatican of Rome, which the new civilized nations had to carry out to protect the structure of their nations. So this executive order dealt with a language. What language? Whatever this language was, the order extended out to the other languages that knew the language. What language? As stated earlier, I hate languages. I avoid them like the plague. But I've met Indians that speak French, Spanish, English, German, and even Eskimo, who in their seasons travels go over the poles, so they must be able to speak Chinese and Russian. My Indian grandfather could speak, write, and read several white man's languages such as Swedish, Norwegian, Finnish, Polish, and others because it helped him to find work around the reservations.
So are they saying that? So is he also saying that the languages mentioned before aren't white man's languages then?
Right. Exactly. So so I'm getting to the part where he talks about. I'm trying to find it. Where is it again? If the Indian had treaties with a nation that had other languages, then he could speak, write, and read this language. So the old Indian knew this language. What language again? I keep asking the question for a good reason. One day I had to give in and look at languages. A language is a language and would okay, I think there's some words missed out here. A language is a language and would something so hard as to find a language spoken in a certain area of the earth. See, there's a part here. Hold on a second. Oh, here it is. I think this is it. I got the surprise of my life. Not only did the international executive order kill and murder everyone that knew about this unknown language, which did not require that one speak the language, but just knew about it. The order went on to burn and destroy records and schools that taught former, late, and medieval Greek, Latin, Hebrew, Arabic, and other languages in that area. Middle, High, and Low German, English, and French, Old Danish, English, French, Norse, and Old Spanish, which was getting started. But there's another, I'm trying to look for the part. I'm looking for the part where it says that where it says how when the Vatican started killing off all the old people that spoke the ancient languages of these treaties that were signed with Moors. And that's how, because they killed off that line of the so-called American Indian, that older line wasn't able to teach their children these languages. So they were able to make new treaties. The younger generation couldn't read the language of the older treaties, so they couldn't enforce it. And it says that in here. I'm just actually trying to scan to find that part.
And that's not only there. That's also verified in the Los Indios book by Ricardo Ignacio. That when he was traveling around,
okay,
and got reconnected with his ancient roots or whatever, his uncle or somebody left him. His parent gave him a letter from his uncle that was written in the older language, and he had to go back to try to find somebody who spoke the language because they murdered everybody off that knew the language. And there was this one individual in his family that knew the language or whatever, and he had to go back to them to decipher the letter, which led him back to the whole thing of them not being Indians, them being tied to the Moors, and it's the same fight from Spain that came over here, and the same stuff that they did over there to the Moors is the same stuff that they did over here to the natives over here, which would let them know that the people over there and the people over here were the same people, and it was the same war that they were fighting.
Right.
And everything that they did over there in the Inquisition, the Spanish came over here and had their own Inquisition over here, doing the same thing to the people here, which would obviously mean whether they call themselves Moors or not, if they're using Spanish Inquisition against them in the Americas, these people have to be Moors. They can't be anything else.
Oh, it's for the show. I was trying to find a page for you. I'm on the flip the HTML5, and it's saying 84 and 85. You know how they got the all the years next to the event that happened. That's like the section where they start talking about like how many people was being killed off because of their knowledge to this and all that. I'm trying to find the exact page.
Oh, so you're, because I'm reading. This is the actual, like,
the Code of Time
Walkers, right? This is the actual book that I'm reading. Yeah, and what's interesting here, I don't know, and so because the pages are kind of handwritten in, and some of them are rubbed off. So I think this one is page 89. I guess I don't know, but at the bottom of the page it says even the language spoken by the people of Spain under the Moors has been taken off the face of the earth. Right? So, in short, any language that would give a clue to what these American Indian treaties stated as stipulations. So, when we think of that, that's crazy when you think about it, because that's not too long ago, and it was a completely different language. And so that's one, I think, and that's one of the reasons why, like, Columbus and them needed Moors when they traveled out here to speak to the freaking natives. And when they landed, the Moors got off the ship and started communicating with them right away. Yeah. That's what I mentioned. I think I mentioned this yesterday when I was talking to Salam or whatever like that. So I'm saying all these, and that's why I was saying all these books tie in. You start reading, you start connecting the dots, right? But I'm trying to find that area where it literally says the Vatican just killed off everybody.
No, just as you said that, since you said connecting the dots, let me just read this thing here, connecting the dots. Accounts of Native American and African interactions existed long before Columbus ships docked in the American shores. Africans were said to have extraordinary abilities as navigators, tradesmen, musicians many centuries ago. So it's clear to see they were conducting expeditions, points both known and unknown. In an archaeological find around 1975, a pair of Negroid skeletons surfaced in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The topographic soil around one of the skeletal remains yielded a South American Indian wristband dating back to 1250 AD. Olmecs of Mexico came from beyond the national borders, along with the Darienite of Panama, Darienite, the Darienite of Panama, originally from Central America. Washita Moors or Moors were found to be comprised of indigenous American creeds, while the Washita were descendants of Mexican Toltecs and Olmecs that intermingled with Malian Moors. Going granular for a moment, the name Washita is known to be a Choctaw derivative of Wichita, Black Californian,
That's
Calafia,
fact.
Creek, Mulan, Washita, Chickasaw, Mohegan, Pequot, Yamasee, Choctaw, Seminole, Mound Builder are all misnomers for more. Whether African flavored Indians came from lineage identified as Negro or Ethiopian, more as a sign of the times, they were probably more often than not referred to as dark skinned. One thing for certain is that they continued passing on traditions through art, music, and dance. And that's Musicology 2101 by L.A. Jackson.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that book.
Musicology
That's
2101, L.A. Jackson.
Oh, and Islam Sheldon, like
you broke up there. Hold on.
What if
You broke up there.
you know
Repeat
when
that.
he's talking about Arabic was the ancient language they spoke, but we all know it's like an ancient form of Arabic. Like he would just like in Dakota Time Walkers, where he refers to the language that was getting everybody killed. He calls it Arabic, but we all know it's like it has to be a more ancient form of today's Arabic, right? Would it make sense, right? What if they still spoke the Ibero-Punic that's on the Born Stone? Like, what if that language was still moving around at that time? Because what am I on? This thing called Lou Rockwell right now, looking at the mystery of the Cape Cod Bornstones. And then this article written by Dr. Charles Herberger or Herberger, 2001 symposium. He says, like it or not, the colonial settlers of America were confronted with traces of cultural diffusion from the very beginning. The topic included so-called Black Indians, right? Muslim crescent ornaments, Welsh-speaking Indians, Melungians, and then he has in quotations with Melungians, Moriscos from Spain. Okay. Indians and with Indians with Caucasian appearances, right? Religious elements similar to Christianity, right? Legends that sounded like they had influences from prior Atlantic explorers, right? And numerous Native American words that appear to be borrowed from Europe and Africa. That's like you're just saying more and sprinkling it on there without actually saying it. And then when they tell you who the actual people who made the stone is, they say Carthaginian type people, not Carthaginians, but Carthaginian type. So that makes me think of this the whole like the Republic and us having them using the elephant as the Republic and all that. It's like why I brought that up is like if the language goes all the way back to Punic Iberians, and they came over here all the way back in 475 BC. So that whole thing of like us having treaties way before you could even think of what a treaty would be. We have the proof of it.
Right. Well, what's interesting what you just read, that right there, Now that right there shows, kind of proves my point, and it disproves Jay's point that the whole freaking
And
place looked the
they
same.
can get a book too, because they like the book references. And the book is cheap. It's only $5. It's called Ancient America in the Notes on American Archaeology Illustrated by James Baldwin. It's only $5.
Right.
Just go get that and read yourself the awakeness.
Well, the book that I mentioned, I think was yesterday,
Yeah, that was
the
crazy.
Handbook of North American Indians, right? Volume 15. There's that series. It's like an encyclopedia series. Is talking about each and every different parts of the Americas, of, you know, quote unquote different so-called Native American Indians. They all do not look the same. There's East Coast, there's Midwest, there's Central, they all look different. And in there it describes it. So this is what I'm saying. This guy's talking about he has one friend and he doesn't look like Cujo. So the entire continent based on 3 places that he's gone look the same. Like, that makes sense. Right? And what you just read quantifies that as well when he's talking about the mixtures and all this stuff. Right? So, I mean, it's I don't know. For me, it's asinine to even think that way. When you have, you have, like I said, you have Africa, 54 countries in Africa, and even within the countries in Africa, these people
Omar, I got another one, right? The Voices of America. Now look at this coloredness, like Voices of America, growing up Black in Newcastle County, Delaware, right? And it's a school, right? And a whole school, everybody in the school is Moors. Like, they're all little babies, little dark skin, little light skin, but they're all Moors, right? This is compiled by Jeannie D. Nutter, PhD. Now this is funny. It's a June 1953 article where they're talking about this school that used to be known as the Moore School. That's the school. So when they changed that school, they start hiring Negro teachers to teach there. So it became a Negro school. And then the people who were way light that the Europeans can blend into, they had the fine hair, they were so-called like people from China, really. But they sent them to another school called the Indian school, and then they closed the Moore school. So they separated the Moors into Indians and Negroes, and closed both of the. Bro, that's just like the charter school. Now watch this. This is the sign that they erected right at Delaware. I think it's in Kent County, Sussex County, right? It says the Delaware Moors. The Delaware Moors, right? A curious people found in Kent and Sussex County. There has been so much speculation about these so-called Moors. Where we heard that from? So-called Moors. Yeah, that's 75, Resolution 75. But anyway, about the so-called Moors living in Kent and Sussex County. Remember, Clark Kent is Kal-El, but Delaware. These people are usually swarthy, black-haired, and black-eyed, though sometimes of a fair complexion. Right? So right there, when I go back to this picture of this book, you can see it. It's like majority, like 95% of the people out there are dark skinned. It's even one of the grandmothers. I think she's a teacher. All them, right? And then you can see, like, it's like I can count the number of red bone, if you would call it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about 5 to 6 red bones in there. But everybody else is a picture of about 50 people. Everybody's dark skinned, nappy head. What do you call it? Lenape head. But so when it's, and then it goes on in this little in this sign, this right on Sussex County, it says they are mostly farmers. So that brings in my ancestors, and like when it comes to my family, they literally were farmers and owned all the land because they were farmers, and the Europeans that were there, they hired them as workers. Unbeknownst to them, the Europeans had went and made little trust groups called states, and that's how this went. But anyway, they are mostly farmers. They have their own school district from the general public school system. So we ain't go to no general board education. We went to Moore school, and they associate neither with whites nor blacks. So anybody see, this is reasons behind why. I'm gonna tie it in later, right after this, John. Whites or blacks. Now, mind you, they're swarthy, dark-haired mostly. and sometimes fair complexion. So if you look at a picture of the Moors, they will look like what you would call, this regular black Negro boy. But what they saying in this thing is that they don't even deal with whites or blacks, these people, right? One theory has been that they are of Moorish, the Moorish race, whatever that is, human race. So either they're calling the human race Moorish race or whatever, right? The Moorish race, and that their ancestors were Spanish Moors wrecked on the coast more than a century ago. Another tradition represents them as descendants of Nanacoke Indians. But see, the Nanacokes never say that part. They never tie in a part where we just looked at like, oh yeah, we was descendants of the Nanacokes. Like we was always the same people together. They never tie that in. They never tie in the fact that there's somebody named Muhammad Wayanoman. And he was one of the Algonquin Sagamores who actually went over to England to speak to, I think it was Philip, because they was treating the Moors wrong. He never made it back because they poisoned him when he was out there. So, just showing you how, and of course they tore this sign down because, probably some black stuff, but it's just to show you that this was known. Nobody, it wasn't like a guest to nobody. We were known as Moors, and we weren't following the so-called white and black subjugation of the laws, the codes, and all that. No, we had our own treaties and everything, and customs and creeds that give us our governmental status, like our way to conduct our own laws, our sovereignty.
And that's the part that the Aboriginal indigenous who aren't Moors don't get.
Real quick.
Yeah, they get caught up in the European psychology, opposed to going back a little further to find out exactly everything that we've been talking about today. For them to see how the tie is, even with regard to the language. You're right. This is from Aryan Idols, Indo-European Mythology by Stefan Arvidsson. Schlegel declares in Über die Sprache, I think that's German, that he realizes that all languages have a natural origin, that one need not count on external help in order to explain the genesis of Indo-European languages. But he does oppose the belief that all languages must have the same origin, that they were all equally wild and raw from the beginning. The reason why only some people have received an admirable gift of light or clarity, and how it has arisen, remains unclear. Obviously, these people were the same people. If dude's gonna get off the boat from across the Atlantic and come here and talk to some natives in the same language that they speak, if Matthew da Costa is gonna come from Portugal all the way over here and he's gonna be talking with Métis and all this, obviously there's a relation between all these different languages throughout the world. And the founders of languages is us.
And to add to what you're saying, that ties in. This is from the Time Walker, and this is page 86. After reading books and books on the history of languages, in brackets, I hate languages, it was found in the book, The Arabic Language, Its Role in History by Anwar G. Cheney, page 81, University of Minnesota Press. The Arabic language, forbidden in any shape or form by inquisitors. Then why has the Christian Bible permitted to remain? Because all it is a translation of religious writings from the Arabic language. Then he says, the Arabic language was spoken all over the world, including lands of the Indians of the Americas. No wonder 100 million Indians had to die because they could speak the Arabic language.
Sound like fear now. Now it sound like fear.
Now, if they can speak the English language, this ties into, obviously, if Columbus came over here with Moors on a ship, they can communicate with the natives. The other the other quote unquote tribes or whatever that that were here as well, right? And so it says that explains why the old Pueblo Indian Tewa language is secret and never brought out, because it has many Arabic words in it, and it used to be a death penalty if anyone found out that someone knew it. Wow, that's crazy. And it further explains my Dakota Indian name, which does not follow the regular chain of boys' names. And my father, mother, grandmother, and grandfather knew what they were naming me when they named me Musa. So Meredith Quinn, that's almost a nom de guerre, because his real name is Musa, and it says Moose, and then the next line. So he said, when they were naming me when they named me Musa, then the next line says Musa in Arabic languages means Moses. So his real name was, I guess, Moses Quinn.
That makes me think of Henrietta Ross, like how they were calling her Moses. So that was really Musa. But look, this is the craziest part. Kuta Kinte, yo, that's supposed to be an Indian. Kuta is Little Turtle, right? But wasn't he practicing? Wasn't he praying in Arabic?
Yep.
Yeah. And I made a video about that. I said, okay, even if I said in that video, Kuzo remember this video. I said, even if your premise, if you subscribe to the notion that you came across here on slave ships, right, from Western Africa, at that time, all of Western Africa pretty much was Arabic. And so if you're saying Moors are Arabic, that means you're Moors. And then I said, that's why in the movie Roots, when Kunta Kinte was praying, and I showed the video, he's bending down and he says Allah, right? And then the next scene is where he's beating, he's walking down, he hears this dude beating the drum, and he walks down, and he says Assalamu alaikum to the man.
And then the Morisco running in talking about, hey, we don't do that. What are you doing? Take that fez off. We're not Moors. The same shit he's doing. We're not Moors.
Okay, so like, bro, how come when we watch the old version of Birth of a Nation, why aren't all the people that were sitting in the Congress, why weren't they in feathers and stuff?
Yep.
Like, why did he take a fez off the dude's head that was blackface painted? Why didn't he rip a war bonnet off?
Like eating watermelon and all that.
Yeah, come on, man. They're telling you what you used to be before Indian. But what now watch this. Let's really deal with this for us. I need y'all to really go somewhere with me when it comes to what are they using in law to claim this stuff. Now watch. This is crazy. We all know of allodial title, right? There's something called aboriginal title. Now, Moors, this is where the Shematar gets sharp, because if they're saying that they have land patents based off of aboriginal title, and they're then going upon saying that the aboriginal title works as a allodial title, they're lying. They're lying, because an aboriginal title is a common law doctrine, right? Recognized first, and the first jurisdiction to acknowledge it was the United States. Okay, so that sounds like the opposite of our treaty, but also known as the original Indian title or the Indian right of occupancy. The right of occupancy. But fee simple occupancy under federal trust. Now, why is that important? Because there's something called droit when you deal with Well, you can look it up in the Black's Law Dictionary. It's called droit, droit, D-R-O-I-T, D-R-O-I-T. Droit means the right, right? They have the right of something. Droit, droit is called the double right. That is the right of possession and the right of property. These two rights were, by the theory of our ancient law, distinct. And the above phrase was used to indicate the concurrence of both in one person, which concurrence was necessary to constitute a complete title to land, Morris. Right? Right? So now when I look up a allodial title, it says allodial title and real property is the ownership system where the real property is owed free and clear superior landlord. In order for you to get that, you have to have both your rights, your right of possession and your right of property. The Indians are okay with having right of possession, and they're okay with the United States having the right to the property, being the allodial landholders, and giving them over patents. But when we think about it, isn't the patent system the same thing the Europeans created to steal all our creations, all of our inventions, right? We were gin owners and oil barons, but after patents, we don't have that no more, right? This is what the European was doing to get us out of our law, because a lot of this was just us not knowing how to read his form of law when he first would come out with it. And now watch this, Morris. You go to 8 USC subsection 1401. It deals with citizenship, acquiring citizenship by jus soli. So just by being on the land, right? Persons born in the U.S. and subject to its jurisdiction. You go down to the third dot. It says a person of unknown parentage found in the United States. Oh no, I'll skip one. Here it goes. A person born in the United States as a member of an Indian, Eskimo, Aleutian, or another Aboriginal tribe. See? So if you're an Aboriginal tribe, Aboriginal title, you're putting yourself back into the United States as a citizen based upon 8 USC 1401. And then 8 USC 1408, there's something called non-U.S. citizen national. So these, that's what I'm saying. I'm not attacking anybody. I just don't get what they're trying to use to make this stuff like real. Because all you need to let it be known that you're indigenous to this land is self-identification. That's the first article of indigenous peoples. Well, in the American Declaration for Indigenous Rights of People. The first article is the American Declaration on Rights of Indigenous People applies to indigenous peoples of Americas. Part 2, self-identification as indigenous peoples will be a fundamental criteria for determining to whom this declaration applies. The state shall respect the right to such self-identification as indigenous, individually or collectively, in keeping the practices of institutions, of each indigenous people. So now, while you have that in the same article, it tells you have a right to a nationality. So we're saying, like, all right, if I really talk to a so-called Indian to make them understand where I'm coming from, just so they can understand where I'm coming from, or don't take this literal, but just look at this is where we're coming from. We don't exist as tribes the way we don't exist as temples like that. You go through the temple because this is a body organized for you to get your indigenous, your nationality and the knowledge of your creed, which you lost time ago. So when we telling, people like, oh, my grandma said I was an Indian, so did mine. But there was something that was lost time ago to what it was before that. Because obviously these Europeans, it seems like nobody was black, Negro, color, Indian, all that until he came over here. Because India is not even India, if you want to be frank about it. So he's literally, we're talking about created concepts that he's basing his thing off of. And if we deal with, having a nationality, what did Noble Ali say about our nationality? He said, by claiming our free national name, our father's free national descent flags, it gives us our free national rights. So if you're going to claim back Brown or Booker as your last name and saying, oh, this is our claim to Aboriginal, like the name changes when that mother got married, right? So Christianity means that the father took her indigenous and maiden name away and put his name on her based off a Christian principle. So how far does your name go back? That's like, have we forgot the meaning of Nam Dagir?
It's a great point. Great point.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, like, this is one reason why when you talk to a lot of to certain Al-Kibulanians, aka Africans, they will have such long appellations is
Exactly.
because their father's name and stuff is still in
Yep.
there, so
And
that you
that's
know their
where
lineage.
just sanguinis comes in at. If we claim our mother's lineage, that's what passes the blood down, not the father. So we could claim right back to the land. That's the point.
Right.
That's the whole point of blood. I already know how it gets because it's colored. Because right now, how they recognize blood is through the DNA test. My understanding of it is forget what they saying and putting on that document. Take it to somebody who knows law. That's a geneticist. That's a Moor who knows that these people have called us African American and not indigenous to the Americas. Like people who already know that, been studying genetics, and they've actually made it in a way where Moor is winning. That's why when I went into that Neanderthal thing, I'm speaking from a Moorish paradigm. Like I know Brother Don got, like, he probably thought that I was trying to say something else. No, my understanding today of what a Neanderthal is a dark-skinned individual. It's not, it isn't the way we've been taught, like, oh, Neanderthals, the European. No, that would mean the European goes back way farther to some 35,000 years ago. We already know he's 6,000 years old. So he wouldn't even be here long enough to go back to something like that. So when we understand how time works and the way he twisted time, we know when we go backwards, it's actually going into the future when we look at how great stuff was. And the more we go into the so-called future, the more we fall into, just forms of living that we used to be cool on.
Illusions.
Exactly. Yeah. So if I say I go all the way back to the archaic man who used to know how to cut stone, that was his skill, cutting stone. So that means you could cut a stone and build the Angkor Wat, right? If that was the word they use is Neanderthal. What if Neanderthal is just another way of saying Atlantean, right? And what if Denisovan is just another way of saying Lemurian? And like I said, the Denisovans were all women fossils. So I don't even get where we get this whole thing of the man doing something. No, the women fossils were the Denisovans. Now this is where the part kills it. It's like European is saying out of his mouth there's a missing link. So what he's saying is that he can't find his connection back to the great mother. If you deal with the genetics the right way and the blood the right way, the only way the United States is having so-called 14th Amendment rulership here or possession of land here is through Just Soleil, right? If Just Sanguinis is the opposite of Just Soleil, look at feudal, right? Allodial is the opposite of feudal. So we can see right there, there's a transient law going on. Transient law is like if A and B are related, if A and C are related, B must be related to A by nexus of C, some stuff like that. So by transient law, we understand, and we gotta be clear here. Just Soleil is what the United States is using to occupy land. Just Soleil is the same thing that the indigenous so-called people are using to occupy land because it's only occupancy, right? So who now holds the allodial title? That has to be the person with Just Sanguinis, because Just Sanguinis trumps Just Soleil. Blood comes before soil. So if we come up with a way that all of us Moors can show that our blood is different from everybody, there is no more talk about this claim once we bring our damn treaty and our damn prophet and our damn constitution, divine and zodiac constitution, to the forefront and put it on the record. Because all of that can be gotten out of the Library of Congress with seal, Federal Rules of Evidence 902, that's self-authenticating. They can't deny it after that. So, you know, when we be like, oh, they can tell us we don't, but no, European. No, United Statesian. No, usufructarian. No. I have your people's document under seal. If you say that I can't do this, then you just threw away your oath. And let's talk about them oaths. If the 14th Amendment was never even fully ratified, I got that one too. 107 Congress record on seal. If that was never fully ratified, then how are you even sitting there calling yourself something that doesn't exist? That's the question now. See? So now when it comes to our lands and who's gonna get the land back, only Moors can do it because we got the allodial claim. We don't need Aboriginal claim when we got allodial. I yield the floor.
The first claim is gonna be the allodial claim naturally. The first claim is gonna be the allodial claim naturally.
You know, there's a couple of things that you mentioned in there. One of the things that you mentioned ties into what I was going to read next with the Time Walker. And one of the things ties into, once again, going back to Jay saying everybody on the continent like looks the same pretty much. What he said, if you go to, if that would be the case, then Asia is connected to India, is connected to Europe.
It's a great point.
Connected to Russia. And if all Asians look the same, Cambodians, I've been to Cambodia, they're a lot darker than your average Chinese, but then their eyes are a little bit similar. So, you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's just to drive that home even some more. This part here in the Time Walker is interesting because he starts getting into like the language, and he talks about, I think this is where he mentions the marriage part. So this part is this is page, I think 87, and it says the modern history of the American Indian. It says, that's right. I'm going to ask another question. We already know it won't be on languages because that's settled. So he settled the whole languages thing. Think this one out. Play with it for a while, because the answer puts to sleep any costly archaeology or anthropology studies by making them stupid. And the reason that the answers have always been available, in which the world's elite scientists, in putting together past man's puzzle on history, would have exposed the reason for the Inquisition. So the question, why did the members of the old Moorish Empire, whose descendants had suffered as slaves not only under Romans, but Greek rule also, defeat the civilized Roman members of that empire without any mercy, permitted the Indian of the Americas to have treaties that presented the legal concept that they won the wars? Play with it. No scholar or scientist or ethnic researcher can dispute it. The study made by the Department of the Interior on the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo territories showed the Indians had the ruling force. Why? How could a culture and empire who didn't believe in wars, implements of war, mind control, and police action defeat the mighty Moorish Empire without raising one finger? I don't care what has been written in the past, because too much was hidden. So such untruths could be told and make everyone believe it. If you are an if you are, this is spelled really wrong. If you are an antiquity or anthropology scholar, there is printed matter that gives the answer. I observed and read it. I observed and read it on August 29th, 1984, just north of Mexico City. What one reads puts to sleep the teachings that this part of the world was new compared to the old on the other side of the earth. Ah, so now it seems like he's getting into how old it was and the other side being new. The Lambit Yeko temple ground, the Lambit Yeko temple grounds. Sounds like Lambo. Headed north, headed north back to El Paso. It's right next to the highway on the left. It doesn't look like much, so you could miss it. When you park, cross over the temple grounds to the other side, and just below the grounds, you can see a new archaeology find that is being dug up, or maybe it's already dug up today. When I visited this place, Mexican officials could not let one get close to this find as it was roped off, hanging from a rope with binoculars because the closest one was permitted to get was about 30 feet. And so there it was. The reason for the statutes. Okay, so there it was, the reason for the statutes. The story was that a young Indian girl just married a young foreigner, and the marriage came about because both had been taught the science and were now being sent on a journey. If you are a great lover of Egyptian culture and mythology, this place will hold you spellbound, because here is the very spot where Indians wished a combined marriage of the two cultures. Bon voyage, on a journey to a location that today is known as the Great Pyramids of Egypt. That's crazy. Just imagine a Moor government official visiting and seeing this place. He knew what it meant. Of course, Spanish officials drove Indian slave labor by the millions to cover all the temples in Mexico and the United States with dirt and clay. So that right there says that at the very least, Egyptians were in, quote unquote, Egyptians were in the Americas, and that ties into Saga America and America BC by Barry Fell that I talked about, that I told Salam to read. That ties into also Ancient and Modern Britons that I told Du to read as well. That ties into When Rocks Cry Out that I told Salam to read as well. Right? Trying to cover the reason for the Inquisition that had nothing to do with religion, but a spoken language. But what could be so important about deleting a language that the Indians of the Americas spoke as a second language that cost the lives of 100 million Indians? I know you could use the argument that this language cost the lives of much more in Europe and even famous people. That may be, but that is white man's business, not Indians. Even if you could say that Joan of Arc tried to bring this truth out for the Indians of America. What is the importance of the Arabic language? I know that American Indian prophecies state that in the last days, the true Israelites will come to these shores and join the Indians on the last great migration. But God Almighty, everybody under the sun has come to claim to be these people, yet they have not shown one tribal denominator that could identify them. This tribal denominator would be no different traditionally than the one an Israelite could give from his tribe. If a member of the Moor Empire ever gave one, it cannot be verified because of records destroyed. There was a small gesture to 1 on the Eagle Bowl Treaty.
That's the
I don't
one
know
that
if
I
any
was
of you
saying
know about
earlier.
that treaty.
That's
there.
the one I was saying earlier.
Okay. So there you
It's
go.
the
So this
Aztec
ties
stone.
into what
It's
you were
the
reading,
that big Aztec stone.
right? The Eagle Bowl. Right? Yeah. That's exactly what it says right after. There is a small gesture to the to 1 on the Eagle Bowl Treaty in brackets what you call the Aztec stone. But I'm not satisfied. But I'm not satisfied the stone is the real one. But made over.
But they made it over from the Mayan calendar. It's basically saying that we brought the Mayan calendar long time ago based off of our study of the cosmos.
Right. Right. And white antiquists and archaeologists will now throw away writings done on the stone to find the gesture. But I bet they got from traditional Indians since the first encounter through the 1920s over a million times, but missed it. Today, the American Indian culture has been so desecrated and desolated after meeting tribal members from Mexico, the United States. So this dude is talking about dude was on there talking about what tribal practices and so on and so forth, and he was talking about that, but he's saying that the culture has been desecrated and desolated. So many of the stuff that they're practicing isn't the real stuff, based on what he's writing, based on what Musa is writing. Canada, Labrador, Newfoundland, and Nova Scotia, only around a dozen knew of tribal denominators. So everyone is going to have to go way back in their paperwork. Yeah, but whatever. The Indian he says, but whatever. The Indian of the Americas is entitled to his history, separate from the civilized educational system. If that is the only way it can be done. Present-day Indians who, by governmental policies, have been put in an ambiguous position of not being true legal Indians because of this same covert actions. 25 covert actions. 25 years have passed, so such records should be open by the world. And he goes on. So what's interesting is he goes on and then he goes on and he starts describing he talks about the marriage. So there it goes. It talks about pretty much the marriage of the so-called Indian to one of the Moorish princes, and so that was sealing of treaties and families and stuff like that. I goes on to read that. So I mean, this is why to me this it's heavy. This Time Walker is heavy, though. And once I read this and I'm like, okay. And then when I started reading all the other books that I was mentioning to Salam, it just started. I was like, oh, okay, that comes from the Time Walker.
That's right. That's right. You need reference points because if you don't have any, you're gonna be lost out here.
Yeah. And I wanted to tie in one part so we could see that back then, like the ancient Rome and ancient Greece and all that was talking about America. But we can show it and prove using
we'll just get all the Moors last comments so we could close out. Go ahead, Christian.
Oh, all right. It says, and this is from the Time Walkers again. Like I think it's a little bit farther, Sheldon. Right before that picture of that big circle, like of the land or whatever. It's like 2 pages before that. But it says, the creation of this new language had been started off after the 1471 AD, and after the British scholars had arranged Aristotle's and Ezra's opinion on the Bible how the Bible should be put together. Now, these references to the British scholars can be found in the Dictionary of Medieval Latin from the British sources. Pescu AB. I can't read, but it's talking about the actual book and like how it breaks down like the chapters and stuff. AB 6 pages, beginning at B, that finishes up at page 20, is complete to anyone that wishes to know and who put the civilization of the civilized Christian Bible together. Once these British scholars had completed their arrangement, it was passed on to the Peterborough Monastery, who now created the first Bible translation from the new language, which had 25 letters borrowed from the Greek and 7 from the Demotic Egyptian. 25 and 7. But right. But it is the original Christian belief that the Bible of the Moors, who separated themselves from others in 451 AD, that holds one fascination, because the Christian Bible is based on Aristotle's model of the Delphinic priesthood of Apollo. So he's talking about the Sibyls and all that. But so there is something wrong. Was there something wrong in 451 AD? If the Moor translations of the Bible, it is the language that had to be destroyed off the face of the earth in the early 1500s, and Aristotle's system of self-hypnosis as Christian beliefs is back. What is the great spiritual truths of the old Moorish translation have helped to rule the earth for over 700 years. So what they're talking about is the Moors knew about taking anthropomorphizing. When you do that, you could take the image of whoever the ruler is and rule the lands with it. Moors did it for over 700 years. When the European got that Bible and learned how to put itself in it as deity. Now watch this. It's that 451 is the Council of Chalcedon. That's when they start saying that Jesus could be a man and God at the same time, which gives a pope ability to take over powers that, like, you know how we had the church and state together, but what that would do is make the church have more power than the state and the people, ecclesiastical rulership. And this is how I want to prove to you. This is where it gets real crazy. The church was built in America, in Connecticut, in the 5th century, which would be 451, by Moors. It says right here, and this is by John Gallagher, Connecticut's 5th century church. These items indicate that it was a place of worship, an early Christian church. The artifacts are illuminated by Libyan Arabic texts found at Figwig Hamdid Mamun. Now, Mamun is so a record of oasis in eastern Morocco in 1926. What did Noble Drawley know about? See? The North African Christian monks sailing towards the setting sun to Akshamal, A-S-Q Shamal. So they knew about Al-Akshamal, right? They called it Aqsa Shamal or Akshamal. We called it Maghrib al-Aqsa, the northern land. You know what I mean? Al-Aqsa. So, and then basically the monks arrived in North America about 480 AD. So when the stuff went down over there with the Nicene Council, they brought the church over to America, and it was Moors that did that. So understand that the type of Christianity wasn't what we see today. Islam. I yield the floor.
Islam.
Right. I was just about to add, like, I remember finding old maps. There's this website that had old maps from like 1503 and stuff like that, and they were being sold for like 64,000 euros, 72,000 euros and stuff. And the good thing is that the couple selling them, the European couple, they had high resolution images of the map, so you can check it out. And just to tie into what you were saying about the churches, I remember looking at all these old maps and seeing these red dots and stuff on them. It looked like red dots, and when I zoomed in, they all look like mosques.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, wow, these look like mosques everywhere, just based on the way they were shaped with the dome and stuff. But then I wasn't sure, and then I remember looking later on in the 1700s and seeing all those same things, but with crosses over them, crosses. And I knew that they were mosques converted into churches.
All the Japanese houses and whatnot with the how they built their own mosques.
Yeah. But just closing remarks. It's funny that you mentioned in the Time Walker the dates, because now I scroll down and I'm seeing all the dates, and it breaks it down from 1490 to 1491 and so on and so forth, and it starts going into detail. And I'm not going to read that because we'll be here all night. Be here all night. But I would definitely, and this is where it says about El Segal when I'll just read this part from 1491. Abdullah El Segal agrees to sell his kingdom once again, his kingdom to Isabella for it says 5 million Maravida, which is $17 million. This is where I said his eyes were dug out. He crossed over into Morocco and was arrested by the king Benerin of Fez of the Ottoman Empire, who took his money, put out his eyes, and made him a beggar. But he had to keep. But he had to be kept alive in case any Indian tribe remembered him because of the treaties. When the world could have produced El Segal. So, and then it goes into more detail and stuff like that. So all that to say, when Moors, when you start reading all these books and especially some of the ones that I mentioned and even the ones that Cujo mentioned and stuff, and the dots start being connected, and then you get a better understanding of, a better comprehension of what's going on. And I mean, this Time Walker here, when I tell you it goes in, and it makes, to me, it just makes a lot more sense, and it explains a lot. So, once again, we'll give thanks to all the Moors online in the chat. Islam to all the Moors.
Good one today.
Islam to
Islam to all the Moors for their input.
Yeah, it's good.
Good one, yeah.
Good build today. Good build.
Yeah. And also want to shout out, even though he's not here, give thanks to Asir, because Asir, in taking his classes, he put me on to a lot of this stuff, and just started reading it, and it just started blowing my mind and stuff like that.
Do the tears.
Honest to the Duke, and Cujo putting me on to When Rocks Cry Out and stuff, and just honest to all the Moors and the Prophet, man.
But thank you too, Sheldon, for bringing, because you already know how it goes. You bring through the information that we know, forget what they talk about. You bring through stuff that nobody heard of before, and then show conclusions of how it can add up to date, where you can actually use this stuff to, help yourself out in business or whatever, if you know how to unlock it. You show that type of stuff clearly. And I just thank you for being on the chat, because it made it real easy. Obviously, it wasn't about even any beef with anybody. It was just about us getting stuff clear to people that they never heard before. So you can't say it's wrong, the do other day with our brother from Abyssinia.
Right. And just one more comment, one more thing. Once again, Time Walker is showing that Moors and Indians were great friends. That's what he says. The Indians had a great friend. And also through marriage, it ended up being one. So stop this separation. The separation is ridiculous. Obviously, it's the so-called modern, quote unquote, Indians or whatever. But there was crazy unity. It was unity also through marriage, and at the end of the day, Abdullah sold his territory.
Not the Moorish,
his territory, which is the Moors' territory, and that doesn't mean that the so-called Indians lost their land or whatever like that. No, it was just part of the Moorish
and on
Empire,
that point too, notice that there's never ever a reference to an Indian empire. So when this unity happened between the Moors and the Indians, they didn't become an Indian empire.
Facts.
Right.
It's always referenced as a Moorish empire, even to today, which the latest reference that we have of a Moorish empire on this side is Noble Juali in the 1920s. Worldwide. Islam to all the Moors.
Islam or
Islam to the Moors. Peace and love.
Love to all. Study.
Islam.
Study. That's
Study,
key.
study,
You know what
study.
you know, what you know. Can nobody take you off your square?
Nobody.
Hey, Grand Sheep.
Islam more.
Peace. There's another source of a book that all my Moors should definitely read up on. Basically talking about the same thing that we was all talking about today. It's called A Diary in America, with remarks on its institutions, Volume 2, 1839, 698 pages. I'm gonna put it in the private chat too. But it's basically talking about the same thing we've been talking about. It's talking about how all the pyramids throughout the Americas was founded and made by Canaanites and Phoenicians. So,
And that ties into
Yep.
Pioneers of France in the New World, where it says the New World belongs to the Canaanites, the Moabites, the Amorites, and the Amalekites. The Canaanites and the Moabites.
So you got various sources talking about the estates of the Americas are in the hands of the Canaanites.
Mhm.
Various sources. Various. No,
Oh, Noble, read that in the name of that book.
There you
again.
go.
I'm putting it in the chat now. It's called A Diary in America, with remarks on its institutions, Volume 2, 1839. You know, when it comes to Moors, all we read is stuff from the 1800s and pre.
Right. We've stuck in the past.
If it ain't from the 1800s, we likely not even gonna breathe on it.
Oh, I got it more. It looked like wood on the front cover.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. More. Yeah. Islam.
Diary in America.
Diary
with
in
remarks.
America,
Say it again.
with remarks on its institutions. They're talking about how Christopher Columbus came over here. The indigenous was speaking Hebrew and same stuff y'all talking about. And it's from 1839. So
Yep.
Oh, printed in Philly. Yeah.
All right. I'll get it. I'll definitely get
it's a
it.
good one too. It's a great one. It talks about how the Canaanite tribes sojourned over from one continent to from one landmass to another landmass, and it's the same stuff y'all talking about. Is just simply another source for my Moors.
How can you be mad at the Moors, man?
Right. And when rocks cry out, that it talks about
How
that
can
in
you
When
be
Rocks
mad
Cry
at the
Out too.
Moors? Like, what did we do? It's clear.
You know, it talks about that
for
in When
no
Rocks
reason.
Cry Out. In America, BC talks about how the Phoenicians, which are the Canaanites and Moabites, were here since 1000 BC. At least 1000 BC. And the Egyptians were over here since at least 3000 BC. But then I talked about that before. That's why I mentioned those books to, get that too. It ties into all of this stuff.
This is damn near a whole collegiate academic lesson.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah,
On the who got the jurisdiction. This was a well adept lesson. I appreciate
that lecture hall stuff. Yeah. This is that PhD shit right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Peace and love to all the Moors worldwide. Right. Oh yeah, and have a good sleep, Sheldon.
That's not so bad, man. It's only quarter to 12 right now. So he's
out of here. Be up to 2 in the morning dealing with us.
Islam, boys. Peace and love to all.
Islam.
Islam.